Okay, we're going to call the August 14th Drainage Board meeting order. Mr. Valentine's going to lead us in prayer, followed by the pledge.
Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we are thankful, Lord, that we can gather today, Lord, in freedom. Father, we ask you, with that in mind, we thank you for our troops, Lord God, all of our public servants that are in uniform. We ask you to protect them, Lord, and guide them. Father, we ask for wisdom tonight, Lord God, as we make decisions that affect your people here in this parish. And we ask all these things in your Son's name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's have the letter be known that Mr. Adrian Thompson is absent. Everybody else is present. Number 3 is a public comment section. We want to stress that you have a 3-minute time to speak on any agenda item, and when that agenda item comes up, I'll be calling on you. Number 4, acceptance of minutes of July 10th, 2006.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion by Mr. Cyborg, second by Mr. Kent Shakespeare. Any questions? Any objections? So moved. Move on to number 5, Parish President's report. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, everyone. It'll be a very brief report tonight. At the last meeting in July, you had asked us to look into, I think the verbiage was consider hiring another firm to work with CDM on the Bayou Henderson pumping station, and we're still looking into that. We do not have a recommendation for you tonight. We've met with him, we've met with CDM, and we're still looking into this matter. Most of you realize there were some issues in the past associated with this, and so that's my report. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions? We'll move on to number 6, Department of Public Works report. Mr. Bill Rue, DPW.
Yes, sir. We're going to start out, like always, I think we're handing out the routine maintenance status reports from the Drainage Department. Like always, if you have a particular question, you see something that you want to talk about, be glad to answer any questions tonight or at any other time. Give our office a call and we'll go through some of the work orders with you. I want to go through the status report of some of the projects and some of the things DPW is doing for its drainage. Start with the Black Bayou digging and cleaning. Right now we're about 1,000 feet south of or east of LA 44, moving real good. We're doing about 250 to 300 feet a day. At that rate, we're looking at basically 100 working days to finish our work on Black Bayou. Or if we get the weather we've been having, I think we should move on that pretty quickly and have a good project. Again, we're moving at a rate of about 250 to 300 feet a day. Clearing and grubbing of Conway, Panama, and the Bayou North East bayous by NRCS. They have the contract in hand, the executed contract, and they are preparing the plans and specifications right now. It's not on their website or as a to-be-let project yet. We tried to contact them today to get clarification of when they think they're going to put it on to be let. And as soon as we get that information, we'll let that out to the Drainage Board members. LA 73 at railroad tracks and at US 61. It's a problem area, as you know, with the, I think, the dentist's office and also the bank and the little business area right at the corner of Dutton Road, US 61 and LA 73. We have given a contract for right-of-way acquisition, either acquisition or expropriation to SJB to get this thing settled once and for all. The only way that we really settle the issue at that location for both the dentist's office, people on that side of the railroad tracks, and also for the business establishment of the right at the corner, is to establish a major drainage outfall ditch from Dutton Road going north along the railroad tracks and hitting a big area of drainage basin north of Dutton Road. Once we get that, then we'll go in there and do a drainage, improve the drainage between the dentist's office and this ditch, And once this happens, it should solve the flooding area of that location. And again, everything dependent on us getting that right-of-way. We will get the right-of-way, either through buying the property through acquisition or through expropriation, and we're moving as fast as we can. Again, SJB is doing that for us. Abbey James Road culverts, we've cleaned. It had a lot of silt in it. We had to do a lot of manual labor, actually entering the culvert manually and digging out some of this. We have it clean, and we're evaluating the condition after we get another rainfall to see if, in fact, we need to upgrade those culverts to larger box. But something will be done, again, after this evaluation is complete. This should help those people north of Abbey James Road, just the cleaning of these culverts out. And again, that is complete. Just south of that, at a bottleneck on a piece of property that we could not get the property owner permission to enter and clean, we have cleaned it from the adjacent property using our long-reach tri-coat. We're able to reach over into that ditch and clean the bottleneck through that. We will be coming up that entire bayou, the Marty Burak ditch from its confluence with Henderson Bayou. Once the design or the evaluation is complete by CDM, they're going to be doing the model. This is included in the model, and part of that model we should be able to get information for doing a design of that ditch and all of that drainage basin. But again, we're waiting on this to do a design of the ditch so we can tie it into our major drainage project of Henderson Bayou. So this is ongoing. We are providing some temporary relief by relieving some of the bottlenecks along this bayou and other bayous while we're waiting for this design to be complete. The Shake Snyder ditch on 73, down Shake Snyder Road, that LA 73 crossing at the smokehouse is a problem area on LA 73 for years. We finally were able to enter the Mr. Shake Snyder's property, and we have 2 cross drains across that private road that we have completed. We're only waiting now for the cross drain under LA 73, which is a combined project, St. Elizabeth Hospital and DOTD and the parish. So that's forthcoming. Should be too much longer before we're able to establish that cross drain, upgrade that cross drain, and finish our project, which would benefit and hopefully solve some of the problems along LA 73 at this location. We're at the same time, of course, working on permits and everything. Wetland delineation, BCG is working on this. We'll be complete with wetland delineation of Black Bayou this week. It looks good. Very little of the area along both sides of Black Bayou is wetlands, according to BCG, and that report should show that. So it'll be easy, a lot easier for us to mitigate. It should be less than an acre maybe, and get at least that behind us for us, extending a permit or getting a new permit if needed. We've got some other issues we're going to talk about in a few minutes. Under CJ had to talk about mitigation and mitigation costs. So we'll go through that in a few minutes. Bayou Grand subdivision. Work orders are in place to upgrade the culverts under Bayou Grand Road to the same size as those culverts going under Tigger DePlessis Road. So we are going to upgrade that. At the same time, we're going to upgrade some of the cross drains and driveway culverts leading to this big ditch. But we're probably going to do it all at one time. We have some huge box covers ordered, and as soon as they come in, we'll project that subdivision out and should benefit the people in that subdivision. We have some issues on Mossy Oak, Cypress Circle, Plantation Boulevard, and in Manchac Plantation subdivision. One of the main problems is that we have discovered and we're pretty sure about is the small 15-inch culverts that was subsurface drainage covers that were put in by the developer. We had several projects at that location in that subdivision. What we're seeing now is the possibility of these subsurface drainage pipes being too small, and we are looking right now designing and upgrading, projecting a work to be done to upgrade all those subsurface drains to a larger size. So that should help some of the people in Plantation subdivision, Manchac Plantation, because we've been having problems of flooding in 2 or 3 streets along that subdivision for several years. So that is going to be projected this year. Fife subdivision, we have reached a design of project design of digging a ditch along the, I think it's the west side of Fife subdivision between Mr. Jesse James' property and the subdivision. We're going to establish a new ditch along that area. That'll be the first phase. Second phase is to upgrade the road ditches and the covers, driveway covers in that subdivision, tying it into this ditch. And then we're going to evaluate the conditions after that point. If we see we need to do further work, then we'll go into the design of some type of levee and a pumping system to actually artificially drain that subdivision to either that ditch or to New River. But again, we're going to do it in phases so we can evaluate each phase and see how it benefits the subdivision and the drainage. So we're moving on that. That is a work order in place too. We've been having the problems in Seven Oaks subdivision. We're trying to handle that. We have we need to, and we are going to clean the railroad ditch out on the backside of Seven Oaks subdivision. Part of the problem, though, and what we've been negotiating with, is that we're going to have to use the subdivision right-of-way, which is roughly a 25-foot right-of-way on the backside next to the railroad tracks, as part of our drainage structure. And I think some of the property owners wanted to keep those trees and do everything within the ditch of the railroad tracks, but we feel that it's important to use this servitude. That's what it's there for. The other thing is we can burn trash, burn the trees, and discard the material at that location instead of having to carry it off, because we cannot do it in the ditch next to the railroad tracks. The railroad will not allow us to do that. So we're moving this and trying to get a common consensus with the people in Seven Oaks for them to understand that we have to use this area. We also have a problem with at least one of the detention ponds. It's not don't have enough freeboard as it should to detain the amount of water that should be in that pond. It's an artificially high elevation right now, and some of the people in the subdivision would like to keep it high because of aesthetic reasons, but we feel to get the full potential out of the design of that detention pond, we need to lower the elevation so it can store more water. So we're trying to negotiate, trying to work with the people so they understand some of the things we have to do that would benefit the area. That is an older subdivision, and we do have some problems with the house slabs being just about the elevation of the roads. We always recommend that the elevation be above the road, and at least. And of course, it's one of the older ones, and they were not done, and now it's showing the results of that. We get a heavy rain, and the water can't get out fast enough, and it will build up. But we're doing everything we can to solve the situation, or at least lessen the severity of some of the flooding in that area. LA 74, we already negotiated with DOTD. They're going to be overlaying LA 74 later this year or first of next year. And when they do, we're going to participate with them in upgrading the main Bayou North-East culvert going under 74, which is just west of the railroad tracks on LA 74. It is somewhat of a bottleneck of Bayou North-East, and we're going to upgrade it to a 23-foot wide by 10-foot high culvert, and it's replacing a 10-foot by 7-foot. So it's a tremendous upgrade, and we think it'll benefit the upper Bayou North-East area once this is done. After that, we're going to have to evaluate the effects it's going to have further down when it gets to airline and crosses under airline and proceeds downstream. Because it may, cause a little bit more problems down there, but we're trying to evaluate that now so we have a solution once these covers go in. That's basically that's a lot of us, the main things that we're working on right now at the Department of Public Works. We are, and a lot of talk has come up about the master drainage plan, and I want to reiterate to everybody here and also to the public, the fact of the matter is we cannot, the DPW field, we cannot come up with a master drainage plan until we get the results of the BKI study of the capacity of the pumping station. The whole center part of the parish is dependent on that pumping station. If the report comes back that it has enough capacity to do enormous amount of work upstream, then we will probably come to the board and recommend going into the further dredging of all our major bayous going upstream, depending on what the pumping station can handle. If the pumping station analysis come back and basically says, before you do a whole lot, you really need to look at adding on to the pumping capacity, that takes priority. Before you can do anything, we have to come back, put a plan together, and say, how can we increase the capacity? Can we put in 1 or 2 more pumps? Or will we be allowed to put in 1 or 2 more pumps? Everything for the next few years changes depending on that study. So while everybody can say, well, yeah, we need a drainage plan, we need to do this, we need to do that, we have to get this study in, and we're pushing BKI to give us this study as quick as possible. We have to have this so we can formulate a plan and move forward. So that's, and the BKI is going to talk in a few minutes and give a status update of their work. Right now, I have CDM is here. I'd like for CDM to come up and give you a brief status report of the Laurel Ridge Levee and Henderson Bayou project that they're working on.
I think that there is some slides. I don't know if they're going to come up on the screen.
So you got the slides for Omar?
There you go. Actually, the Henderson one, Robert, you want to go ahead and do this one first? And then I'll do the Laurel Ridge. This is Robert Heath. He's the project manager we've got on the Henderson project.
Good evening. I'm here to give an update on the Bayou Henderson drainage study project that we're working on currently. Can I have the objectives of the objective of the projects, as you know, is to perform a hydraulic and hydrological model of the basin, which will contain in Bayou Henderson. The basis of the results will determine alternative analysis. Will give us the knowledge we need to have some alternative analysis and recommendations for existing and potential future drainage problems which occur in the basin. As we stand now, task 1 is complete, data collection. Survey of the actual bayou itself is about 5% complete, and the hydrologic evaluation is approximately 50% complete at this time. The survey has to be completed before the hydraulic evaluation can actually take place. The next slide you'll see the due date for the hydrologic evaluation is the 30th of October, and for the hydraulic evaluation is the next month in November. So at this time, the hydraulic evaluation is going ahead full steam. The hydrologic evaluation is going ahead, and the hydraulic evaluation will begin once the survey is complete. For the progress summary, to put some bullet points on it, is the data collection is complete. The survey specifications have been delivered. We're negotiating the contract with the surveyor now. The hydrologic evaluation is in progress, and if you're interested, we're using ArcHydro for pre-processing of the LiDAR information to generate the digital elevation model, and also to just determine the overland flow in the basin. And GeoHMS is where the actual model is run. That's where the pre-processed information is inserted into that program, and that you develop your water quantities, which are used to develop your hydraulic evaluation. The completion of the hydraulic critical milestones, we have completion of the hydraulic evaluation. Like I said, we use that to develop the actual overland flow for different levels of storm protection. We of course, are going to have the model, The model's going to be compared to previous events that we know, that we have the rain information for. Also, we're going to use the NRCS hypothetical storms, which is a standard distribution of rain over a 24-hour period, to insert into the model. And from there, you can pretty much go into any hypothetical storm. You can have a 10-year storm, 25-year storm, 50-year storm, 100-year storm. And part of our alternative analysis and recommendations will be cost-benefit of the different levels of protection. How much would it cost to protect against the different various storms? The completion of the hydraulic model is going to be done, is going to be started once the hydrologic model is determined, and from there we're going to evaluate alternatives such as the effects of dredging, potential stage versus storage capacity. If there is a levee or some type of structure put there at the beginning of the bayou, what kind of stage versus storage will you have? What kind of rain event can you handle without pumping? And then beyond that, what kind of pumping capacity would you need for a level beyond that storage capacity? On this slide, this is kind of hard to see, I apologize, but I can actually get you guys copies of this if you wanted it. Just let me know. And this shows where we are proposing our cross-sections along there. There are 6 bridges, and we have 22 cross-sections along approximately 20,000 feet of bayou. And the next one, this is just gives you an idea of what the digital elevation model looks like for the basin. The hydrology is based on the different elevations from one pixel to the next, and the pre-processing determines which direction the water will flow in the model. So, any questions?
No questions? Thank you.
I think the next little presentation should cover Laurel Ridge, if it's there. It is. Oops. There you go. The objective of the Laurel Ridge Levee Extension Project is to evaluate and select a new levee, particularly intended to protect from backwater events from the Amy River and rainfall events, headwater into the area. We are 100% complete with data collection, 95 complete on alignment evaluation, and we've initiated design criteria analysis, and we've provided all these deliverables so far to the parish. The critical thing that we've completed to date, as I updated y'all last meeting, was getting the Corps to buy in on the different alternatives that are available. We had our meeting with the Corps a couple of weeks ago, finally. I think they've been a little bit distracted, as you can imagine. We finally got them to sit down with us. And the meeting was very productive in that it helped focus our attention on what we think jointly with them at the early stages of the game would be a cost-effective permitting process. In other words, selecting a route that is most cost-effectively permittable for the parish. Pre-Corps meeting, we had 3 alignments that we presented to the board, kind of loosely following some previous alignments. Our meeting with the Corps kind of highlighted that 2 alignments are probably most suitable for permitting and cost-effective construction. One of the things that we really need to get from the board to move forward with the geotechnical and surveying, right-of-way analysis, et cetera, is to pick the one route that we're going to pursue from a permitting and evaluation standpoint. What we will have to you, and I'll coordinate with Chairman Lambert to get to you within the next couple of weeks, a detailed kind of comparative cost evaluation of the 2 selected routes and some couple of variations on each one, so that as soon as possible at the next board meeting, if it's possible, to get some consensus from the board so that we can move forward with the evaluation of the board-selected route. Just to let you know, and this is probably quite obvious to everybody, but the determining factors of the route are wetland impacts, route length, which determines construction cost, the levee height and configuration, which is determined to meet FEMA base flood map elevations, and right-of-way impacts. How many landowners are we dealing with? What is the cost of acquisition, et cetera? Again, critical milestones, getting the board to buy in and direct us to proceed with that one route is going to be very important. And if we can get you to commit to that next board meeting, I think that would definitely help us with our progress. I don't know if this is very easy to follow, but we've got the three potential routes that we went to the Corps with up on the screen there. Very briefly, the gold one is the one that kind of has been proposed in years past. I think was the one that we kind of went into going into this project. The middle route is kind of like the straight shot, the one that cuts through the swamp itself. And the third one, the one to the far right, the purple line, is one that follows an already cleared abandoned gas right-of-way. We thought that would be an innovative approach that the Corps would entertain because of its short distance and the fact that it was being built on something that was already impacted. Based on our meeting, it was very clear that the first and the third alternatives have the most promise to be cost-effectively implemented. And those are the ones that we're going to further develop for your consideration and selection in the next couple of weeks. That's an aerial, to give you an idea of what the topography kind of looks like. And that's based on the advisory-based flood maps that are available right now. And again, that advisory-based flood map is what's going to determine the height of the levee required to meet the 100-year flood protection goals of FEMA. Any questions?
Any questions for Alma? Mr. Sadwell.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the three proposed routes, please.
I don't know if I can do that with the aerial.
That's fine right there. You said the first one and the third one was more appealing to the Corps as far as utilizing the existing.
Well, to get into the details a little bit, actually the second one. Let me go back here. The second one, the one in the middle, was already applied for and was rejected, and because of that reason, they felt as if its chances were probably less of because of the mitigation efforts that would go through. Again, anything is constructible, permittable. It's at what cost, and because that route had already gone in, and because of the mitigation costs that had already been, I guess, evaluated, I'm not sure to what extent it was agreed that that one would probably be the least permittable, or the most costly to permit.
But so far as utilizing the pipeline, that was something that they.
That's an option. Again, I mean, it has to be balanced, and I think it would be a pure guessing game right now to see. It seems shorter than the other route, but there may be some other mitigation costs associated with it. I think to be comprehensive and a little bit prudent, I guess, we need to go through the crunching of the numbers, because there's also a cost, for example, on using native material versus hauling in soil from someplace else. The longer the route, obviously, the longer it's going to, the higher the construction costs will be if you have to bring in dirt. So, we want to present everything in a kind of a more comprehensive manner for you to consider and finally select.
Okay, that's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
Any more questions?
I have one.
Mr. President?
How long ago was that determination made on that route? You said the second route.
I don't know. I can go back and look. This was before our involvement, certainly. I mean, before we got involved. It was a previous, maybe some other folks in the parish would
Do
have
we
some
know,
history on that.
Almar, on all three of these proposed or possible routes, how much wetlands are we talking about? I mean,
Yeah,
what
that's going into the consideration that we're going to provide to you, with the cost associated with the wetlands required for mitigation and the wetlands required for acquisition. All those costs will be presented to you in
do
a
we know
total.
yet about what percentage of whatever, any of these routes, what percentage of that land is actually wetlands?
I don't know right now, but when we have this thing summarized in the next week or two,
We'll know in the next
it'll
week.
all be presented.
you.
It'll almost be like a table with columns and numbers and all that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any more questions? Thank you all. Bill, you still got the floor.
Yes, sir. Now have Henry Picard with Burt Kleinpeter is doing the pumping station analysis. Give you a little update of that project. Henry?
Good evening. We're working on the Marvinboro pump station study. What we have done to date so far is we have completed the data collection phase. We have been back to the Corps of Engineers on 3 different occasions, collecting both their hydraulic data, their GIS data, and their hydrology data. We have gone into the calibration mode of the phase of the project where we're taking the rainfall data from the NRCS and USGS for the data collection at different rainfall gauges that are within the basin, and we've also collected data outside the basin so we can develop what they call a rainfall hyetograph. And that basically says we're looking at the rainfall events, we're calibrating the rainfall across the distribution of the basin, and then applying that towards specific sub-areas in that basin. We have gotten all that data together, and now we're in the process of taking that rainfall data from the September 22nd through the 26th, which was the Hurricane Rita event, and applying that in the hydraulic routing model, the HEC-RAS model. And we're trying to mimic the exact stage readings that we got at those same rainfall gauges. We also have some additional data that Mr. Godin has provided us at his level logger stations, and we're using that and we'll have approximately 10 to 12 data locations where we can match both rainfall and stage data. At that point, we'll have the model calibrated. We anticipate being about a week to 2 weeks away from having the model completely calibrated. At that point, we will then start doing the interesting part to you guys is actually determining what are the potential for the dredging and what is the potential requirement for additional pump station. Our goal there is to, in essence, run what you would call what-if models to determine at what point the existing pump capacity of 5,000 CFS is overtopped by increasing the dredge limits going upriver. And we will update the model to the point where we reach over capacity on the model. At that point, we'll stop that model. We will then take and upgrade all the major channels with dredging and then design or calibrate a model to find out what the maximum pumping capacity that would be needed. We're looking at it for a 10, 25, 50, 100-year storm. We'll also include the 5-year storm because that was what the Prescott-Foley plan was designed around. But I think we all pretty much have the same feeling that because of the change in land use, the 5 years is not a practical solution at this point in time. But we want to document the results from that to kind of show. One thing that we will not have until a later phase in this project is the updating of the land use. Now, bear in mind, what we have been given is the calibration and the modeling that was done to set the DFIRM map several years ago. That was done by the Corps. That was based upon land use that they could ascertain at that time. It's not the current land use. So that's a later stage where I'll have to refine the calibration at that point in time when we do that, but that's like I said, that's a later phase in this study. The first thing is just to determine what is the general configuration of the channels, and then further, what kind of general configuration is needed for the pump station.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that's all of my report, but my staff and I are available to answer any questions if anyone has something to ask tonight or tomorrow.
Mr. Barger?
Bill, can you give us an update on the actual core process for the permit that's about to run out at the end of the month for Black Bayou?
And CJ is going to talk about a little bit of it when we get into the mitigation issues.
Okay, I'll just wait till
But
then.
to answer to get into something maybe that's not in his report, basically there are some past issues that we have to clear up with the Corps. One of is some annual reports that we're compiling, sending to them with our pumping station. The other thing is the issues on how we maintain some of the riverbank that was already dredged as far as the last permitted process, and we are complying with that. And it's some mitigation issues that we thought that was taken care of years ago, and but apparently there's some legal issues, and some of it wasn't taken care of, and we're looking at doing something with that, solving that problem. And again, and the next agenda item, CJ going to talk about some mitigation costs and some of those issues.
So you think we're going to have it ironed out by the end of the month before the permit runs out?
We probably won't. We probably won't. But that's not to say that we won't. We may be able to get a temporary extension. We may be able to get. It may be able to get further along with actually getting a new permit if we can provide
understand
this
if it
stuff
runs
to
out,
them.
it could be as much as a year before they let us do any more work. Is that true?
It's hard to say. Again, a lot of it has to do with the fact that we're doing a delineation of Black Bayou. And some other bayous might be a different issue, but Black Bayou, we're doing a delineation, and part of the permit process is how much wetlands you have. And we're getting ready to prove that we have very little wetlands throughout the remainder of this project, which has a lot to do with, of course, the permitting process. And but URS is working with us. They're our project manager, and they're actually a go-between between us and the Corps of Engineers, and they're helping us move this process along.
Do they have any input since they're working on it? Do y'all have time, anything?
My name is Jim LeBlanc. I'm a wetland scientist with URS, and I was asked to attend the July 20th meeting with the Corps of Engineers with CJ. At that meeting was Martin Mayer, who is the Central Division Section Chief, Mike Farabee, who is the permit writer, who has inherited this permit, and Dr. James Barlow, who is the mitigation specialist for the Corps of Engineers. At that time, they made us aware of all the non-compliance issues that Ascension Parish has dealing with a permit that goes back to 1995. The first permit was issued in 96, actually. You got a 5-year continuance or extension in the year 2001, and that's why your permit is about to expire as of August 31st, 2006. In the course of the conversation, it became very clear that there were a lot of issues, and it was going to be very hard within 30 days to bring this into compliance. If you look at, there are 29 conditions in that original permit that must be met as you're doing work. And a lot of these conditions have not been met going all the way back to 1995. For instance, there are as-built drawings on each and every project that you do that were supposed to have been submitted to the Corps within 60 days so that the Corps could come out, make a site visit, and then assess mitigation. None of that's been done. So we have a lot of issues to try to resolve in 30 days. So it's going to be very hard. I was talking with Mike Farabee, the permit writer, trying to convince him that if we did everything we possibly could in good faith to bring it to compliance, knowing that we had a lot of things to overcome, could he see to extend the permit? Initially, Mike did say he saw that maybe we could extend it. Then he got with Dr. Barlow, he got with Martin Mayer, his section chief, and they said, no, we can't do that. There are just too many outstanding issues for us to give you an extension at this point in time. So we're trying to work with the Corps as much as we can to get everything we can to them, like the pump reports, whatever as-built we can find. We're still working on that. And we're dealing with the compensatory mitigation issues, and you'll hear about that shortly. For something that goes back to 1995, there were 18.94 habitat units of cypress swamp that were supposed to have been paid for compensatory mitigation that has not been paid for. And that's one of the sticking points with the Corps of Engineers.
How much is that?
We're getting prices from 3 mitigation banks. It runs from $293,000 down to $213,000. Now, CJ has gotten a third bid from Lago Español. I think it was $5,000 lower than that. So we're talking in the range of $200,000 in mitigation costs. These are not fines and fees. This is just mitigation costs for the swamp habitat that was disturbed as part of this 1995 permit.
By the 31st?
By the 31st.
I think it's obvious. No way it's going to happen, huh?
We're working on it.
Bill, how long have we known we had these 29 conditions?
I guess last maybe 30 days.
So
15, 20
I
days.
mean, they had 29 conditions just floating out there since
This
95?
is part of the process. I'll give you, for instance, they said that, well, let me go back. In 2000, 2001, we were told by Coastal Environment, who was doing all our mitigation, that the last thing we had to do was buy the last units from La Espinal, Spanish Lake. That was a Mr. What was it? Buck Monroe, I think. That contract was signed. It was everything we thought was complete. Jesse LeBlanc was our attorney at that time. They went into negotiations, and we had the contract to buy the units. And as I understood, it was complete. We even bragged to the Drainage Board at that time that all our mitigation problems was over. We finally completed everything that was past sins, and that was all. Apparently now there are some legal issues with the owner of that property, who had other people say that he didn't own it, and they went back and forth, and it was never resolved, and we didn't know anything about it. It just sat there. And we never got the notice from the Corps that the units was outstanding. You know, according to what I understood, everything was complete. Until now, which they said there was a problem.
Yeah, but Bill, there's more. I mean, there's 29 problems here. There's more than just a couple cypress swamps that we were supposed to buy in Spanish Lake.
You got other issues too. One of which is how much you cut along these bayous, and the fact that trees supposed to have been planted along all of these bayous, and that all of the bayous supposed to have went back to natural vegetation. Okay, these are some other issues that was back with the other, actually going back to the late 90s, and the other drainage boards, and nothing was done. And again, we didn't have acknowledgement of the fact that all of these bayous had to have trees planted on it. It's come to light now. We weren't aware of it. This goes back to other administrations, 2 other administrations, where the standard of how you maintain these bayous was dictated by the council, by the drainage board. I mean, they started cutting all your berms, and in fact, all we supposed to be cutting is 15 foot, one pass on one side of the bayou. And we have corrected that, and we're going back and doing what the permit had said. But again, we took over I guess, a standard or a procedure of doing the work without actually going back in and saying, is this the right thing we should be doing? Is this what was mandated by the Corps of Engineers? And it's been done.
I mean, who's in charge of checking on this? For 3 years, it's almost 3 years we've been in here. Who's checking it? Who's responsible? I hate to be rude, but this is totally unacceptable to be in this position less than 30 days before a Corps permit runs out and coming up with $200,000 to pay sends it a pass. That's totally unacceptable.
We had consulting engineers that was in control of all of the projects at that time, ever since 1995.
If I could interject, Mr. Chairman.
I think, please.
Please do. I'll wait.
Okay. Mr. President.
Yeah, I've told you on more than one occasion that there's been a lot of issues at the Corps. When we've gone and met with them in the New Orleans office, it goes back a long time. Why now. And it goes back many years. And we're still in a bullseye in some of their rooms up there at Ascension Parish because some things that were done without permits. These issues were brought to my attention as the manager of your drainage program just a few weeks ago on how serious this stuff was that was not completed back when they thought it was, when the permit was, I think it was extended again in 2001. That was an extension. That was not a, they were saying then we hadn't done what we were supposed to have done since 95, and so they agreed graciously to a 5-year extension. If I'm misspeaking, please correct me.
That's correct.
And now, what all those conditions were back to 95, we're trying to, what's this, 11, 12 years now, Jared, trying to deal with. And it will not all be done in the month of August, more than likely. Now, it may very well be toward the end of this month. We have to ask you guys to have another special drainage board meeting to deal with some of this once we know more about these 29 conditions. But once we got URS involved in this process, trying to, let's use the word mitigate with the Corps. I mean, we are not very highly thought of in the New Orleans Corps office, and so we're trying to you know what it's like to rebuild a reputation and credibility with a federal agency, and that's what's happening here. And so we have several consultants trying to help us in that process. And part of it goes back to this Laurel Ridge levee's understanding when they went in and started doing some things without permits, which really got us that black eye to start with. And so we found out late, and we're doing everything we can to try to get it resolved. But I will not promise you as the administrator of your drainage program that this permit will be completely in place and worked out by the end of this month. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You still got the floor, Ms. Byer.
Yeah, Parish President. I understand there's plenty of sins in the past, but as the administrator, like you said, it wasn't time to start 20 days ago. It was time to start 3 years ago. That's why the Corps still has a bullseye on us, because we will not do what we're supposed to do. I just think it's totally ridiculous that we just start this process, what'd you say, 20 days ago? You found out about it?
No,
That's
sir.
Unacceptable.
When I met with the Corps before Katrina, they didn't mention any of this to us. We went down there to try to see what do you still have against Ascension Parish and what can we do. And we met with many people. This was not brought out in that meeting with them at their Corps office in New Orleans, Mr. Byer. Now, if they would have brought that out to us then, which was the purpose of that meeting, because as we realized that there were people that we need to work with to address the drainage issues in our parish, who work in the New Orleans Corps office, we established that meeting. So, okay, what is everything that you've got against Ascension Parish and what can we do about it? This was not mentioned at all in that meeting with them. And I'm not sure when Mr. Roof first was notified, I guess when we was trying to extend the permit. Then these things coming back to 1995 coming out. Now, so, has mistakes been made? Probably so. But as far as it's been less than 2 months since we have been made aware, since I have been made aware of these particular issues and specific issues here that have to be dealt with. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Finish, Mr. Byer. Yes. Mr. Shake Snyder.
Well, and I feel the same way as Mr. Barrett on this. We had a temporary permit issued for 5 years in 2001. And anytime you have a temporary permit, there was some problems that caused it to be a temporary permit. And that should have brought up a red flag and that we should have been investigating. And hopefully we'll do a better job in the future of investigating this, because it should have been investigated to know why we had a temporary permit, not a permanent one, and what we needed to do before a month before it went out. I have a couple of things. Also, in the drainage jobs completed in July, and you had talked about, Mr. Rue, you had talked about the subdivision that had the culverts that were undersized, that were installed in the subdivision as underground drainage. That was within the subdivision along the road, right?
It's part of the Manchac Plantation subsurface drainage system.
Right, and it's not outfall ditches leading from the subdivision, it's in the subdivision.
Actually, I think it is, some of it is some outfall. I mean, it's part of their subsurface system. It might not be, I don't think it's actually along the road. It's leading the water system, the surface water away from the subdivision. But
So
they are,
it's not ditches that are in front of houses and,
some of it, no, but basically, no. This is leading away from there.
so
But
we have a 15-inch culvert leading away from, that's the drainage outfall for a subdivision.
I think so. Part of it, part of the system. It's not the only drainage away from it, but it's part of the system.
Okay, well, I see where we are. And my question was why we're doing this with major drainage money. If it's a subdivision ditch approved by the planning commission, it should be something on road and bridge or whatever we do on major, on regular drainage. And I'd like you to check on that, put that wherever that may belong. The other thing is that we didn't discuss this, but last month we approved getting a shredder for our major laterals and things of that sort. And we were led to believe that this shredder would be as a way to go down the ditches, the major ditches, and shred trees and clean these areas so we wouldn't need as much of a permit. It'd be easy to get permits and everything, and we could do our jobs at. I have a number of them within the parish that needs to be doing this. Then I was told that the shredder only shreds trees up to 8 inches, and that it would be a maintenance shredder.
Mm-hmm.
What's the story on this?
Well, we were going to talk about that under your agenda item on project to be contracted out and some, and the issue of our shredder compared to a larger shredder and contracting out the larger shredder. So again, if you want to,
Well, we can wait.
we'll wait and we'll
very well
discuss
wait on
all
that.
of this under that agenda item.
That would be fine. Thank you.
Mr. Hillisback.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bill, back to the maintenance cleaning that on Black Bayou, and I appreciate what you're doing there. That's gonna help the upper reaches. That is just maintenance cleaning. That is not dredging, if I'm correct.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are we required to have a permit to clean as such, or are we required to have a permit to dredge? I'm unclear about that.
Basically, if you can get a nationwide to clean, which is different from a full permit if you're going to dredge and stockpile berm dredging material and take use the property alongside of the bayou. In this instance, we're cleaning, we're not substantially enlarging the bayou, we're just doing maintenance cleaning, and we're carrying all spoil away. So we're not impacting the area alongside at all.
Will we be able to continue this even though the permit looks like it's going to expire August 31st?
We're doing a lot of maintenance cleaning, and we're going to continue maintenance cleaning.
You didn't answer my question. Are we going to be able to continue what we're doing now if the permit expires August 31st?
We feel that we can continue doing
Okay.
this,
All right.
just like
Good.
we do on all our ditches, a number of ditches,
Yeah, all right, thank you.
because we're not impacting.
All right, last point I want to make is, as you well know, I've done 3 PowerPoint presentations, and all the way back to December '05, I told this body that our permit was going to expire August 31st. I said it again in March, and I believe I said it in July on my Part 3.
Said it in April
Or,
also.
well, anyway, I've been saying it all along, so this shouldn't catch anyone by surprise around the table. This is not something that just has developed in the last 20 or 30 days. So, thank you.
Any more questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Rue.
I just want to make it clear because you have to understand what we're trying to do in the parish. And it goes back to the whole issue of the capacity of the pumping station and what is our overall plan once we get that analysis in. Fact of the matter is, even if we got an extension of this permit, we would probably have to go back to the Corps and get a new permit if we were going to go through there and do a different design than what was originally put forth by GSA. If the capacity analysis showed that we can double the size of these bayous or do a significant amount of work, we would have to go and reapply because we varying from the original design that was put forth when you got the permit. So it really wasn't a major issue to us on losing a permit because, number one, if the capacity showed that we couldn't do a major redesign of the ditches, well, then it would take another, we have to solve that problem before we could go and dig these ditches a lot larger anyway, which would be another year or 2 years down the road, depending on what we had to do at the pumping station. If it showed that we had enough capacity, well, we were looking at really enlarging it bigger than what GSA and them had the design for, which would mean us going back and getting a permit or reapplying for the permit because the design changed. So I just want to make that clear. The second thing is I believe Council Member Jerry Savoy and the chairman, Mr. Lambert, was here during the late, late 1990s. And the fact of the matter, I mean, I can ask the question, did y'all understand that we're supposed to have planted all of this? And all the mitigation wasn't done. And we should have just been cutting 15 foot on the side. I don't think anybody at that time, even when we took over, I came in 2000, I was aware of it from the previous administration who instructed me what was going on. So we had no need to go back and investigate everything that went on in the 1990s because we were told everything was good. So I'm going to defend our department that, we do things, when we see there's a necessity to do it, but if we have no cause to go back and reinvestigate, we didn't do it. And we find out now there is a problem, and we're going back and solving it.
Thank you, Bill. I got one thing. Maybe Alan might you might be able. Bill, on Bayou Narcisse, we talked about making it a little bit wide on that Highway 74. Have we solved that utilities problem on Bayou Narcisse Road at the bridge? I think we have the city of Gonzales.
No, we haven't solved it. We are still in negotiation and talking to the city.
I know we got a bad bottleneck right there.
Yes, sir. And I think one of the things is trying to come up with a solution and present it to the city and see how we can coordinate activities to solve the problem.
Okay. Thank you. Mrs. Fontenay.
Bill, I have a couple of questions on the drainage jobs completed in July. On 7/11, it says that hauling sand to Dara for Barry to solve sewer problems. What does that have to do with major drainage?
I do not know.
Remove a portable building from rear of library. What is that one?
Again, I don't really know. I didn't put together. My drainage department put it together, and I tell you, if you mark the ones you have concern over, I'll have the drainage department respond to you personally on some of these issues.
Okay, I'll get back with you after the next meeting.
Any more questions, DPW? We're going to move on to number 7, major drainage mitigation costs. Mr. Bill Rue.
Yes, sir. I'm going to turn this over to, we talked about it a little bit already. I'm going to turn this over to CJ and give you some cost factors associated with mitigation if, in fact, we have to purchase mitigation units.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the discussion has been pretty well is pretty well over as far as detailing what needs to be done and why it's being done. Probably the major item left to be taken care of in the original permit is this is a mitigation for cypress swamp mitigation habitat units, and that turns out to be. We've got 3 bids. Jim LeBlanc with URS helped us get the bids. The cheapest we came out with was Lago Espanol for $208,750. $208,750. And understand, please, that this is not it's not by choice. In other words, this you have to meet this mitigation requirement. That the Corps, it's not for work to be done, it's for past work that's been done. Let me say one thing also about the Black Bayou, upper end of Black Bayou. Bill had us to be proactive. We hired BCG to do a wetland delineation to see exactly what was up there before we got there. And it turns out that there's very little wetland we're going to impact, less than an acre. So we'll present this to the Corps, and perhaps they'll let us continue on with our cleaning as we go up. But I think that'll be an important fact that we can present to them. Jim LeBlanc with URS has been tasked to handle this item for us. I would recommend that you authorize payment of $208,750 to complete the mitigation for the original permit.
It's wishes of the board.
I'm gonna make a motion because I want some discussion.
Got a motion by Mr.
I'll
Salborn.
second.
Second by Mrs. Fontenot. Question, discussion, Mr. Salborn.
Mr. Jim, you just don't come up to the mic. Now, CJ, you're saying that this is something that we have to do because of past projects that we never finished up on. Actually, what I'm understanding, that's just one phase, which is the New River phase cost. We still got Severio Canal, Black Bayou, and Francois.
Why don't you let Jim answer this? I think he's been discussing this with the Corps, and he's more familiar
Explain
with it
that.
than I am.
Right.
To the board, please.
In the condition 13 of the permit, there was a need to mitigate 35 acres. And of that, you had 13.7, which was bottomland hardwood habitat, and the remaining 18.93 habitat units were cypress swamp. Now, the bottomland hardwood habitat was taken care of by Coastal Environments, I believe, in 2001. That's not an issue. What we're dealing with here is the 18.93 habitat units that deal with the cypress swamp that the parish had looked into with Lago Español, beginning negotiations, and then negotiations just stopped. You talk with the folks at Lago, and they said their files showed that there were some discussions, cost estimates given, and then it just died. So this is a remaining condition that we're dealing with of the permit. It doesn't deal with anything from that point forward. That hasn't even taken place yet. It deals with only satisfying the compensatory mitigation for 18.93 habitat units of cypress swamp. It doesn't relate it directly to any one particular project. I don't have information on whether that's the McElroy pump station or whether it deals with Severio Canal or New River Canal. It doesn't give me specific information as to what these habitat units relate to, just that they're in the permit as a condition.
For the total project? I mean,
It's not specific. So they included it as a condition of the permit based on information provided in the application that wasn't given to me.
so what I'm hearing is there's a good possibility that we may be seeing you again.
Oh, you're going to be seeing more mitigation because one of the requirements in condition 16 is that as each project was completed, as-built were to be supplied to the Corps within 60 days. At that time, Dr. Barlow would come out, assess the wetland impacts, and then would inform the parish of what the mitigation cost would be for that particular project.
All right. So upon completion of a phase or a project, we had 60 days to submit as-built plans to the Corps.
That's
that
correct.
Never happened.
That did not happen.
This board needs to find out why and who is responsible. Now, I'm not asking you to date, Bill. If you don't know the answer, that's fine. But this board needs to know.
Again, I stated earlier, GSA was our drainage engineer, handled all the drainage projects, and was responsible to handle the as-built, of course, as being the engineer.
Now, I'm seeing right here that they've been trying to get some of that information and still nothing from GSA.
I believe CJ has been in contact with GSA, and I don't know what the progress has been on obtaining any as-builts from GSA.
We haven't gotten them at this time.
Well, I mean,
We requested them several times.
you've requested them several times. We still don't have it. How long? What's the first time you made contact with them to try to get it?
I think it was last week, a week before last. Must have been a week before last. It's been a while. I'd have to go back to my records and see the emails.
That has been turned over to URS, and Ken Israel is handling with Mr. LeBlanc, trying to get this information.
Okay. As far as the parish and the drainage board not satisfying the requirements of the Corps, is that having any bearings on us not getting our permits that we're trying to get right now?
As I stated, I talked with Mike Fairby and tried to discuss with him, could we make a good faith effort to bring as many of the non-compliant issues into compliance? His initial inclination was that he could see to giving an extension. Apparently there was some discussion after that with Dr. Barlow and Martin Mayer, his section chief, and he came back and said they've reconsidered that and they can't do it.
So we have to satisfy more, considerable amount of the 28, 29.
We're making an effort to do as much as we can, as quickly as we can, to satisfy the 29 conditions that are non-compliant at this point in time. Because of the as-built situation, I have no idea what we can actually do to get the mitigation assessed for the projects that we have no as-built on before the 31st.
So far, Bill, you made the comment that from the administration or the department's standpoint, getting the permit wasn't no big thing? Because depending on what the BCG study came back, depending on this and that, I can tell you one thing. This board, it's important for this board. It might not be important for you and your administration and your department, but it's damn important for this right here. Now, so far as we're at the position that we're in right now, Mr. Hillenbeck's right. We've been talking about renewing this permit, knowing that we was not gonna finish the projects prior to the deadline. And all of a sudden now the Corps, the last minute, 11th hour, is gonna say, oh no, wait, we want you to make good those 28 tasks.
Now, the Corps has been a little bit deficient. In the July 20th meeting, CJ had asked for a list of all the deficiencies to come from the Corps of Engineers, so we would know exactly where we stood. It didn't come. I called Dr. Barlow, I called Mike Farabee, and they were having internal discussions as to who was going to write the letter. That prompted some movement on the Corps, and on August the 8th, I got an email from Mike Farabee listing out the deficiencies. And most of them relate to the conditions in the permit. They want to see evidence that conditions in the permit have been satisfied.
All right. Everybody heard the situation we're in. We definitely need to consider bringing somebody on board to oversee this issue, to clean it up and bring it to us and tell us what we need, what it's going to cost, and move forward so we can clean it up so we can move forward. Because apparently we're not going to be able to move forward until it's cleaned up. Now, we can do it in-house like we've been doing, or we might need to see about contracting it out, find a firm, a reputable firm, to come in here and tell us and get them to clean it up.
I'm still hopeful that we can persuade the Corps to give us some sort of extension. If we show a good faith effort and get as many as-built as we can, you guys do something with the compensatory mitigation on the 18.9 habitat units, and we get all the pump reports that are deficient, that goes back to the year 2000, according to Mike Farabee. If we can satisfy as many of those conditions as possible, showing a good faith effort, I'm hoping to have a meeting with Mike Farabee and Martin Mayer to show that we're doing everything we can to come into compliance, and that they can see it and will give us some sort of extension.
All right, Jim. Because we're the 14th today, you tell us what we can do tonight. What action can we take tonight to send a clean, clear message to the Corps that we're in good faith going to do our best to get back in compliance?
Well, the one action item you can take an action on is to approve the payment of the mitigation cost, so that one particular condition can be satisfied.
Okay. Is there anything else that you know of right now that we can consider?
Not tonight. We're moving forward on the as-built if we can ever get them. Those are administrative things we can do, but that doesn't impact the board tonight.
Okay, as-built. Let's talk about the as-built. Bill?
What's that?
CJ, whenever you talked to GSA, did you tell them the urgency that we're in?
We have emails back and forth to GSA and haven't had a response. URS has contacted them. They are in charge, and URS have been tasked to clear the matter up and tell us, work with the Corps to straighten the situation. I mean, they have been tasked to do that. They are working on this. So you say to hire somebody else out, you're going to hire somebody to look over URS, to look over somebody else, to look over us. I mean, URS is doing that now. They have been active with the Corps on trying to resolve the issues.
How long have they been on board on this particular task?
Since we had knowledge of the permit issue came up several months ago, or a month or two ago.
July 20th.
July.
We went to the meeting with the Corps on July 20th.
When the issues came up about the permit, we brought them in to meet with the Corps and to help us resolve the issues.
That's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. President, I'm going to let him
Yeah.
comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I just want to reiterate, Jerry, what Bill just said. We do have URS working on this, and I remind all of you again that whenever we met with the Corps sometime in '05, and it was before the storm because it was on their building there on the levee, talking about all of these kinds of issues. None of this was brought out about having to pay mitigation costs from back in whatever year it was. None of these 29 conditions were brought out at that time about this situation. So if they would have specifically told us then, well, Mr. Hughes, you got to do these things here, well, we would have started working on them immediately. But that was not the case. We just carried away from that meeting that we were trying to do it right, do it legal, and we were hoping that they would have let us know any outstanding issues that they still had against us being the parish. And we left that meeting with the feeling that they were going to work with us and we were going to work with them until this July 20th meeting, and I saw the email, the letter from that meeting. Obviously, it'd be so. Mr. Salvar, it's not that the administration did not take this issue seriously, very serious. Just that it came to light on July the 20th, and URS has been working diligently with our Public Works Department, who's doing a good job to try to solve a problem. And it's not just the sins of the past. I mean, it's just something that's been there. And I don't think anyone around this table was aware of these 29 issues, or any of these, individually or collectively. And some of you have been on the Drainage Board for a very long time. Now, why this was not put forth in a letter or written to us or said, Mr. Hughes, before you renew this permit in August, you need to take care of these things, I have no idea. But I just know that there's some bad feelings regarding Ascension Parish at the New Orleans office of the Corps that we're trying to deal with and overcome. And so, and the New Orleans office has a reputation, as I visit with people from other parts of the country, as being a little different to work with than some other Corps officers. So that's all I can really tell you about this, other than now if you're suggesting we hire someone else to oversee what URS is doing, I don't think that's necessary at all. I think they're doing all they can. And as Jim just pointed out, what we need the board to approve tonight. And this money is being spent on something that probably should have been spent in 1996 to 97. But we need to either authorize the use of drainage funds to pay this mitigation cost. Now, unless we want to file suit, and we have Mr. Parrott in here saying we don't think we owe this against the Corps of Engineers, and you can imagine you get in a lawsuit with the Corps, how long this is going to be drug out in the court system with working with this bureaucracy of the Corps. So I strongly recommend, echo CJ's comments, we ask you to authorize the payment of these costs so that we can move forward to do just what you asked for, Mr. Salvar. Now, and as Jim pointed out, this is going to be just one step in many steps. And we don't know what all those steps are. I don't think we know the beginning from the end, which is scary, the second habit of effectiveness, because hopefully they've given us all 29 of the problems. But I don't think there's a written guarantee that that's all of it. You know, when we satisfy these, there won't be something else there. And I don't know what else we can do. So if you have an idea for the administration to do differently, please share it with us tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Hillinsback. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe that there's more than just a compliance issue here. Everyone needs to remember what it is the permit allows us to do, and that permit allows us to dredge. Am I correct, Mr. Schutz? Mr. Blanc, I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, okay, we've done no dredging, major dredging since 2002. Keep in mind, this is a permit that's already been extended once from 96 to 2001. And with there not having been any dredging since 02, And this board's been a part of this, so I don't want us to blame DPW for what this board did. This wasn't Bill Rue and DPW. And it wasn't the parish president. That was this board. So just keep that in mind. And I don't blame the Corps. The Corps is not going to extend the permit again when we're not out here dredging like we ought to be doing. Thank you.
It's more than just dredging, though.
But that's a big part of it.
It is, but I mean, it also talks about maintaining levees, enlarging existing levees. I mean, it's fairly encompassing. Dredging is only one aspect of what the permit allows.
But I bring this point out because this board stopped the dredging program in June 2005 and shifted priorities. Okay? Thank you.
Mr. Barger?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that's a line of crud, like the parish president would say crud. Parish president, the sins of the past, that's getting old. It's the sins of this board right now, this administration. Nobody read this permit in, 96, I believe y'all said we got a 5-year extension. Nobody read the permit with 29 conditions on it. The reason we didn't get a permanent permit was because we had 29 conditions. Nobody read this temporary permit that said we had problems. All of a sudden, it's time to renew it, and the court just didn't tell us. We should have read the permit. The court shouldn't have had to tell us.
I agree. You should have read it, Mr. Barger, as a voting member of this board.
It's not a
I
temporary.
hired you to read it, Parish President. You need to read it. Calm down.
It's not a temporary permit. It is a permit. It was an extension of an existing permit in 2001. Just so we're clear, it was never temporary. The parish did have a permit.
Mr. Shakespeare, I think you was next.
I forgot where we were going. I just think it's something that we need to move forward on. Yes, we're in a position right now where we have to come up with $200,000 on this deal, and we have no choice, and we need to do it. I beg to differ with Mr. Hillensbeck. It's an all-encompassing permit, and that we were looking for a lot more. And yes, it should have been done a long time ago, but it wasn't. And so it was brought to light now. We need to do it. We need to move forward. And we need to move forward with everything else we need to do, and let's get it done. I think, and I think this is something that we need to probably discuss in new business, but I think this is a reason that we need to look into having a major drainage administrator that's accountable to this group of people, major drainage. And that's going to look at this 24 hours a day. That's their job. They're answerable to us, and when they come to us on this a particular situation that they should be aware of, you know, we can do something about it. And you know, I'm going to bring that up in new business, that we talk about that. But the other thing is these as-builts, I think it's something that's important, and if we have to do a resolution or whatever, nothing else can happen until we get these as-builts. And I don't think, and I think we've been, from discussions I've had in the past couple of years, we have a number of projects, Bill, I think that we're not receiving as-builts on. I want as-builts delivered. And if they're not delivered on time, please inform us, either as a council or a board. And we need to stop work of anybody that is not turning in as-builts, because there are repercussions down the line. This is something that needs to be done regardless of who they are. Let's find out, take care of it, and move on. And if we have to stop work with anybody, stop payment on anything, we need to do whatever we need to do to get these as-builts done. And I ask you, Mr. President, as our administrator, to please take care of that. And if we have to withhold monies, let's do that also. But let's get these as-builts in. They should be in tomorrow, so we can move forward and see what we can do from here.
Mr. Savoy.
Yeah. Mr. Jim, I'm sorry to call you back up here, but can you name off all of the things that we have to deal with, like, for instance, the dredging, the levees, and where we're out of compliance, or we got to come into compliance?
It would be easier maybe to supply something in writing, because it's extensive. I mean, I'd have to start reading the conditions of the permit, because when you look at the discrepancy list that was given to me by the Corps, It just refers back to the conditions of a certain number in the permit. Unless you want me to sit here and read the entire permit, seeing all the conditions.
I thought you could say like the dredging, some levying, some vegetation planting, and.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'd have to read each one of the conditions to you to do that.
Send that to me, please.
Okay.
For the board.
Get a copy to the board, Jim.
All right. So far, Mr. President, so far as your comments about me making reference and recommend that we bring on somebody, until tonight, I didn't know URS was going to be tasked that detailed to go out and handle all this. I thought they were just our consultant engineers to tell us what we needed to do. Now, if we're going to use URS to follow through with the whole thing, then we need to know that, because I didn't know that before this meeting. So far, sewer, no. Ain't nobody talking about suing the Corps either. We'll lose if we do.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. President.
Well, my point, Jerry, was that we using URS now to help us get out of this problem, not detail of the drainage program. You
I ain't talking about the detail of the drainage program, Mr. President.
The detail of this permit, and once it's been brought to our attention since July the 20th, we're out of compliance. We have tasked them to help get us in compliance and to tell this board and this administration everything we need to do to be in compliance so we can renew that permit. Now, URS is not doing the day-to-day drainage work. They've just been really working since the 20th on this particular problem that's come up. And
Finish, Mr. President.
yes, sir. Thank you, Mr.
Mr.
Chairman.
Chairman, I'm the one that tasked URS, and the reason for it is the fact that they are an extension of my staff, and as an extension of my staff, I tasked them to go get the facts from the Corps of Engineers. As a consultant, they are consulting us on what we should be doing, and they're not out there writing a permit. They're not out there doing a delineation. They're negotiating and looking at the issues with the Corps and being our contact person to advise us, which is what they were hired to do. And because of the seriousness of the situation, I wasn't going to wait 3 and 4 weeks to come to the Drainage Board, because it's in my right, dedicated to me as when you hired them as my extension of my staff, to task them to go get information. And that's what they were tasked to do. And going back even a little further, I can say that we had a drainage engineering company came on board to handle all the projects as per permitting, as per making sure we comply with everything, as per give everything that's needed to the Corps to do a project. At no time did they come back and say that we were not in compliance. We hired a coastal environmental. In fact, it goes back all the way to the 90s. Was hired to do all the mitigation. At no time did they come, at the end they actually came and said, we're in compliance, everything's good. We finally finished our mitigation. We hired these people to advise us. They advised us. We hired a drainage attorney who did all the negotiation, wrote the contract, and actually did the negotiation with Espino. At no time did it come back and take it to the board, and Mr. Savoy, you've been here since '95. At no time did our attorney come back that I know of and say everything fell through with Espino. We don't have a contract, and now y'all need to find another place. It never came out. So again, we hired professionals to advise us. The information we got from them led us to the assumption that everything was good and everything was complete until now. So and we're solving it. And we are going back and reading everything word for word, and we will continue to do everything in-house, reading everything word for word. At that time, we didn't think it was necessary because we had professionals doing it. But now we see otherwise.
Todd, just one last comment.
Mr. Dillon.
Yeah, back to the dredging. When the dredging was stopped, the next phases were supposed to have been Black Bayou, from Black Bayou Road to Germany Road, and then from on Bayou Francois, from Airline Highway through Gonzales. That was BCG that was lead engineer on that project, and I think they were really. I think we need to go back and check with them, because I think they were the person that was handling the permits through the Corps on all that. So.
Yes, if I may expand on that, it's a good point, Mr. Linsbeck, because BCG was in contact with the Corps
exactly
on doing the extension of the new design of all our drainage bayous.
Right.
And at no time during that conversation did the Corps tell them and say, watch out, you haven't complied for like whatever number of items on your past permit.
Right.
And they're in extensive negotiations and talks with the Corps of Engineers on their design.
Right, and I believe
And
as
we
far
never
as
had-
GSA's involvement, they were a sub-engineer just working under their direction, so, thank you. Just want to clarify that.
Yeah, got a motion on the floor, Mr. Savoy, second by Mrs. Fontenot to go ahead with the 208,000 total to get this moving forward. Any objection? So moved.
I think we aired it out.
Bill, we got number 8, Fife subdivision. Mr. Thompson's not here tonight.
Well,
Yes,
I talked about that
little
in
bit.
my report, and we are moving on a project in that subdivision.
That's good.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. McConnell.
And I don't know if I can speak for Mr. Thompson, but I know that there were some other issues that were going. There's some additional development going on in Fife subdivision, and some of the residents had wanted. I don't think any Fife residents are here tonight, but could we put this back on the agenda for next drainage board meeting?
Sure.
Because I know there are some additional issues Mr. Thompson wanted to discuss.
Let's have to make sure that's there. We're going to move on to number 9, adopt hazard mitigation plan. Got Ms. Carla Cormier. There's a couple housekeeping items we need to move on tonight to keep this project moving forward.
Good evening. I think in front of you in your packet you have a resolution.
Yes,
You do.
they have their resolution and
Yes.
a letter.
Several years ago, back in 2003, 2004, finished up in 2005, the parish-wide hazard mitigation plan was adopted by the parish. The Drainage Board actually participated in that, but they never adopted the plan. So that's what we need to do tonight.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. McConnell, second by Mr. Shake Snyder to adopt the hazard mitigation plan. Any questions?
I got a question.
Question, Mr. Hillingsbeck.
Yes.
I thought we adopted a hazard mitigation plan put forward by Aegis.
The parish council did. The Drainage Board has not. We researched the minutes and we could not locate
All
it.
right, okay, thank you. I
Got a
just thought we did.
motion and a second. Any
I thought we
objections?
had also, but we researched
I'm
it.
glad you found it.
So moved.
The second issue is you have a letter in front of you that is from actually a joint between the parish president and Todd Lambert. It's discussing the actual grant application. We are working diligently to finish that up. They're due August 29th. We have, as an update, we have 16 severe repetitive loss and repetitive loss structures participating right now. And we're still working on a few others to go ahead and get those projects closed up so they can go into the application also. The application needs to be submitted jointly for the Drainage Board to be able to continue working on this project. The funds come to the parish, and the parish has been in discussions, and correct me if I'm wrong, that they will go ahead and withdraw the application they have submitted and allow the Drainage Board to submit theirs. So that's what this letter is. If you can go ahead and make a motion to send this in.
So
to
moved, Mr.
Shane
Chairman.
Ryan.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Barger, second by Mr. Hillingsbeck to move on this letter. Any questions? Any objections?
Discussion.
Mr. President.
Mr. Calla, could you,
Yeah, there's only one thing wrong in the statement that was made, is that I'm in concurrence with the joint because I told that to the drainage chairman in a letter even. But this is a necessity, otherwise the project won't go ahead, period. It's also another condition is that a letter of understanding between the parish's Department of OEP and the Drainage Board was it. And you're all perfectly right about the Drainage Board did participate in the plan, so by adopting it, that was the right procedure, because that was also in some recommendations that I give them. The next idea that has to be put into this, though, is that since the parish and its Office of OEP will be the responsible parties on the end, because that will be pass-through funds to the Drainage Board through them, that an oversight would be given to the parish president, and since he's an administrator for the Drainage Board, that he would have oversight over the entire project's management.
I know that I had discussed with Shane Rawl today, and he reviewed both the resolution and this letter, and he accepted it without conditions that were just mentioned. But it's up to the board what they'd like to do.
This is the money that comes through from FEMA down
That's
through
right.
the State Office of
Correct.
Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness.
Correct.
Yes.
And I understand when the audits are done, Carla, that they do come to the Office of Homeland Security since it is
That's right.
federal
The funding
mitigation.
does go to the parish, to
And
the
they come
office.
audit there. I know they're doing some audits in
Well,
there
they'll
now
audit-
from several years
They'll
ago.
audit at your house, at your finance department.
Thank you.
So what's the wishes of the board, though? Okay. Got a motion and a second to approve the letter as is. Any objections? So moved.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to number 10, flooding issues in District 4. We do have quite a few constituents here to speak on that issue, but I'm going to let Ms. Fontenot start it off.
Yes, we do. Thank you, Councilman Todd Lambert. We've had several different floods in recent months that have hit Ascension Parish, including one flash flood that hit the other day, last Wednesday, in the Perkins Road area. A lot of my constituents have been getting their own information together and working diligently because flooding is a big problem in District 4, especially in some of the subdivisions. And so some of these residents have put together some information that they would like to bring and present to the Drainage Board, and so that I will turn it over now to Todd Lambert to call the first one up.
The first one on the list is Ms. Margaret Lee, and I think she's speaking for 3 people, I believe. So I'm going to give you like 6 minutes to give your presentation.
Okay. I have a map of the area for Bayou Grand North. Right now, Bayou Grand North is right off of Highway 621. We're taking water from Rockford Place, the sewer treatment plant. We recently learned that DEQ, there was paper that was filed in DEQ that that sewer treatment was supposed to be going to Bayou Narcissi in the other direction. It comes through our subdivision, as well as water from 621. Water comes from Chase Court and the FEMA Mobile Home Park. It goes into our subdivision. You'll see where these arrows are. This is a canal that goes through Bayou Meadow. I live at Bayou Meadow and Bayou Grand North. This canal goes into the Grand Goudin. There's someone that's flooded 3 times in there. This drainage goes from the south side of 621 to the north side of 621. Instead of down 621 towards the Goudin on the south side. The Grand Goudin gets flooded right near Tiggy Duplessis, where our Bayou Meadow is. The canal runs through to Bayou Meadow. I have some pictures to show. I want to show you the map, though, first of the area. We're having a lot of, besides that drainage problem, there's a development that's going on in the area. And we recently had some sediment coming through from that development. I called the engineering firm about getting that bales of hay put up and fences. It's development that's going up here at Lake Triton subdivision. It's off of Duplessis, runs along the back side of our subdivision. This is Bayou Grand North right here. As you can see, the subdivision is in a flood zone A, this portion of it. Bayou Grand North, my subdivision runs along through here. And this is Tiggy Duplessis. This whole Grand Goudin area is the area that my subdivision is supposed to flow into, but it backs up right here. Lake Triton subdivision will be flowing through the Oak Meadow subdivision across over to Goudin, and again it will be coming down through towards my subdivision in addition to the things that are draining in there now. So I wanted to show you the pictures of the the flooding along 621. This is, it's going to be kind of hard for you to see probably. This is the FEMA trailer park along 621. It definitely shows the drains to this ditch, comes from this ditch near along the backside of Chase Court and the FEMA trailer park. They both go across the street. They drain right here through this pipe that drains into the across the street, across 621 to the north side that comes through our subdivision. So it's not just Chase Court and the 621 drainage anymore. Now it's the FEMA mobile home park that's draining through there. This shows you the other side where it drains through this very small ditch area with a gas pipe that runs through there. And this shows you from a different direction. I'm standing on Highway 621, and it's flowing into our neighborhood through this small ditch area. Next set of pictures I wanted to show you is this is the drainage that comes through the backside of that subdivision, through our subdivision by U Meadow. It comes from 621 drains here, through here, and then Rockford Place sewer treatment, and that new subdivision is draining through here, so we're getting bombarded with quite a bit of water. This is a picture of it on recently where it was actually black, dirty water sediment that was coming from that new subdivision that's being developed on Duplessis Road. Called the engineering firm, and they said they would ask them about putting up those bales of hay and the necessary fences. This is actually, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see this either, but this is the two pipes that are in our subdivision, undersized culverts. It's only drains through one of them. This is what it looks like when it's flooded. That's going, this is at Bayou Grand and Bayou Meadow, and it's going towards Tiggy Duplessis. This is undersized pipes in my yard that drained across the street to this canal that drains our subdivision, and this other side of my driveway that drains the other part of my neighborhood. This here shows you those two pipes and the pipe that dumps from my yard over into this drainage area. Only one of these pipes actually receives the water because it just swirls around in this area right here. This is what one of the problems that we have is that Tiggy Duplessis right here. This is the canal from Bayou Grand North and Bayou Meadow that drains towards Tiggy Duplessis. This is Tiggy Duplessis right here. It comes from this direction. You have a lot of pipes, some kind of utility pipes. I'm willing to try to find out who they belong to if the parish is not able to do that. We have this person here that's gotten flooded, and they have sewage also that backs up in their yard. These are another picture of the same pipes. This is across the street at Tiggy Duplessis where it's draining into Bayou Goudin. It's a box culvert there. This is actually a dry area of Goudin at Tiggy Duplessis where that drains into the Goudin. This is a public bridge that goes to a private residence. This is actually when the water's low. This does show that same location. I'm standing on the bridge, and this is Tiggy Duplessis that runs along here. This is what the flooding looked like for Rita. One of my neighbors, they're having to rope off the road themselves and keep people from flooding their houses. They're in boats. This is Tiggy Duplessis. This is actually the Goudin right here, and this is Tiggy Duplessis. This is just a little high piece of land right there on one side of Tiggy Duplessis. This is some debris that washed up from Tiggy onto this bridge because it does go over that bridge. That's another thing that keeps the
Ms. Margaret,
bayou
you got
from
about
draining.
30 seconds left
Okay.
on your time.
Basically, just wanted to show the kind of problem that we're having there. I don't know. I know that our development code calls for us to have, protection for the citizens of flooding and property values. So I just want to bring it to your attention. Don't know who all, out of the drainage board, the parish president, and the parish employees who can help fix these problems, but I did want to bring them to your attention again. Thank you.
We're going to move on. I think it's Ms. Troy. I'm not going to try to pronounce your last name.
Garcioli.
Okay.
I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. First of all, I'd like to get a couple items covered. One, I'd like to request some additional minutes based on the subdivision members that are here. We probably won't take all those. It should be about 15 minutes for the ones that are here. Also, in addition to that, I'd like to have Brent, which is another homeowner in the subdivision, come up and speak at the end to wrap it up. Is that okay?
So the rest are not talking, is what you're saying?
That's correct.
Okay.
The only one that'll be speaking is, besides myself, will be Brent.
That's good. Go ahead, Mr. Troy.
Okay.
Mr. Hillen, Valentine.
Point of order. We do have a policy in place. If he's going to present more than 5 minutes, then we need to grant that to him. So I'll move that we'll grant him 15 minutes.
Okay. Got a motion by Mr. Hillensback. Mr. Valentine.
I'll second it.
Second by Mrs. Fontenot. Any objections?
He's trying to give me credit.
All right. You got 15 minutes.
Okay, one other short point to the fellows in the control room. Because of the decision that you all have made to clean the ditch down on the west side of the drainage, west side of the railroad, that has definitely shortened my presentation tonight. And for those guys in the control room, I'd like you to be ready to play video number 2 and video 11. And with that, I'd like to say thank you very much, Cheryl Fontenot, for all your effort. We really appreciate it. And I'd also like to thank the other members of the board that helped by showing up at Eddie Lambert's office and actually putting the effort, a unified effort together to resolve the problem. I think that made a big difference. Okay. I'd also like to do a special thank you to Alan Allred, the man in the trenches. He's on the front line. He has a very difficult job, and I'd like to say thank you very much for your efforts. With that, I'd like to move forward to, this is phase 1. You guys have agreed to clear the drainage ditch on the west side of the KCS railroad bed from the mid part of the subdivision down to the south part of the subdivision, which is the 48-inch culvert pipe. Okay, and that's my understanding of it, and I've also received some information that says that you guys are planning on going all the way to Duplessis with that. Now, our request was down to the 48-inch culvert pipe. So I'd like to go on to the next phase of this, if we can, and request that some additional work be done. First of all, let me tell you this. The Seven Oaks retention pond system is currently taking in parish stormwater runoff. This condition is resulting in severe street flooding throughout the subdivision and has critically compromised the retention pond system in the Seven Oaks subdivision. Now, with that, I'd like to demonstrate to you real quick what is going on. If we can get this map up here, I'd appreciate it on the screen. I'll have to speak from over here. At the midpoint of the subdivision, there's a pipe, a culvert pipe that's been added to, what we believe has been added to the Seven Oaks drainage system. If you could play video number 2, I'd appreciate that. And that'll demonstrate what's going on at that pipe. And there's no sound to go with that.
Ditch moving from Post Office Road down past the ponds, and there's the weir, and no water moving out of the pond. However, the water is moving quite swiftly past this drainage pipe and moving south towards the new replaced drainage pipe. As you can quite clearly see, the water is flowing into the pipe and not out of the pipe. This is the west side of the railroad bed. The water is moving from the northwest to the southeast.
Okay, the last video you saw was the water actually going into the Seven Oaks subdivision rather than out. The intention was that the water was to move out of that pipe through the drainage ditch and out towards Airline Highway. The reverse is taking place. We actually have water going into our retention pond system and interfering with the hydraulics of Seven Oaks subdivision. We'd like to look into a corrective action on that, and we believe that the corrective action on that is to bypass that pipe, and you've already agreed to clear the ditch on the west side and take that water straight down to the 48-inch pipe and then move it out of the area.
we'd like to get rid of that pipe at some point in time and prevent that water from introducing itself into our retention pond system and causing severe street flooding that we have. Okay? And with that, I'd like to bring up Brent.
Good evening, Drainage Board. I really appreciate you taking the time this evening. I only have a couple of minor points here this morning. I, like Mr. Carcioli, would like to thank Mr. Rue and the parish for agreeing to clean the west side of the railroad tracks. But just to address some issues here that were brought up this evening, I'd like to say a couple things. Mr. Rue's concerns were about the aesthetics of some trees along the west side of the ditch. What I'd like to say to that is, next to the parish's right-of-way where they're going to clean out the trees is the Homeowners Association Board. And we recently spoke to a couple members on the Homeowners Association Board that said it's their intention to pass a resolution saying that they have absolutely no problem whatsoever with the parish cleaning out the center of that ditch. And they also said that, in their opinion, the drainage issue is a much more important issue than the aesthetics. I do know we have a homeowner here that has an opposing view, but what I'd like to say is homeowners do not have a right to retain trees for the beauty of their lot. I mean, it's on somebody else's property. However, homeowners do have a right to make sure that their homes don't flood. And me and Mr. Carcioli, after Rita, had water within an inch of getting into our homes. So I think that's definitely the paramount concern here tonight is the drainage issue. In the past, Mr. Allred was nice enough to clean out the trees along the west side of the ditch up to the point directly in front of our home right there at the railroad tracks. But he did say he didn't want to do it because he was concerned about the people in Silverstone, which is just south of us, flooding. So I have a couple things to say to Mr. Allred that may alleviate those concerns. All we want is the drainage to go the way it was designed to flow. The way it was designed to flow was all the way down that ditch to the southernmost part of our subdivision, and that's the way it's designed to flow. The second point I'd like to bring out is Mr. Lambert was nice enough to meet with us, and he has gotten some progress where he has a culvert added on Airline Highway near Duplessis, which should help the people, the folks at Silverstone, to get better drainage, so it should help their issue downstream. And that's all I have to say. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Brett.
I just wanted to say that we have worked really hard. We did meet with Representative Lambert. Okay, and Todd had come with me, and Jerry, I think, had come, and Eddie is looking forward to trying to get some help with the culverts under the state. But our biggest concern is the ditch with the water going into the subdivision. And I think that if you're going to go ahead and clean the south side of the west side of the railroad track, that maybe you could plug that up so that the water would go normally and not go into the subdivision. I think that's really what you're wanting, right, Troy? Yes.
Real briefly, just to explain this map here, we're taking water from Post Office Road. We're also taking water from the new apartment complex, which is up at Post Office Road, that flows down Post Office Road, then turns to the southeast, heads down the west side of the railroad bed, and then enters the pipe that I showed you on the video into our retention pond system. We can't handle that water. That water is what's causing us our problem. And that's what we're trying to relieve by, first of all, first step, phase one, is to clear that ditch to the 48-inch pipe. And then phase two, which I'm asking for tonight, is to remove that pipe to disconnect our system from what is currently considered the parish system. That's the stormwater drainage system I'm talking about.
One of the things, too, Troy, you had, when we was discussing this, they were really trying to get the water to come out
Absolutely.
of Seven Oaks and go upstream.
Yes.
And go across the airline into Muddy Creek.
That's correct.
And that's not happening.
That's correct.
But also, didn't we talk about maybe putting something at the northern end before that culvert, that the water coming down from Post Office would go to Muddy Creek and not come down either?
That's correct. We're talking about perhaps a weir or something along those lines to divert more water, and once the water rose to a certain height, then it would move down that direction.
Then it would move south,
right. And the attempt is to, actually Alan came out and made a very good attempt at reverse grading that ditch
from the middle of Seven Oaks to the north, and then turning out underneath the railroad bed through a 36-inch pipe and out towards Airline, then underneath Airline. And that's where the state came in. We were asking that they widen that and increase that. Unfortunately, that didn't work. What happens is during a small rainfall event, you'll have approximately 75% of the water headed out towards Airline, and the remainder 25% headed down towards our system. During a significant rain event, it's the opposite. You actually have about 90% of that water coming off Post Office Road. And the reason why that is because there's a 1.5-foot drop from Post Office Road to that 36-inch pipe. And once it hits that 36-inch pipe, it just goes right past it because it has so much momentum and there's so much volume. And it carries on down to our system and the pipe that I showed you in the video, and then introduces itself to our system and gives us a great deal of problem. And our hydraulic systems, our hydraulics of our neighborhood as designed by a civil engineer can't handle it.
Let me let the guy that's leading this.
Yeah, I mean,
one that's in opposition in the audience.
Real quick, Todd. I mean, in response to eliminating the culvert, I think a better alternative would be to put a flap gate there. You want water to go one way, and in case they would have an incident where you would have more water on your side than the other side, it would be there available to relieve that. And I think that would be a better alternative to put some type of flap gate to only allow the water to go one way. That's correct, and that was actually suggested by Alan at one point in time, and we haven't heard anything on that regarding that. Okay, that's pretty simple solution.
Just one quick comment. Yeah, as far as removing the trees, if I lived there, I wouldn't want the trees removed either, but I know we got to improve the drainage. So, Bill, if we are going to cut that ditch through there and remove the trees, is there some type of buffer that we can put in there, whether it be a fence or some additional shrubberies or maybe something we can do with the landowners along that.
Excuse me, could I make a comment on that?
Sure.
I believe if you cut those trees out.
State your name first.
John Stewart. Okay. I live on the pond directly across from that 48-inch culvert. Okay? Now, all that would be necessary is to place another culvert at the north end of that south pond to alleviate this problem without destroying, or I won't say destroy. Let me say this also. I am not in opposition to Troy. It came out wrong. The last thing I want to see is Troy's house or anybody's house, especially in my subdivision, flood. However, we could get this water out just as quickly by putting a 48-inch culvert or a culvert on the north side of this pond without knocking down all these trees. I believe if you knock those trees down, you're going to wash the rest of the bank away. I'm not familiar with operating all this heavy machinery here, but I did bring a picture showing how the bank is already being washed away. That pond is already taken in water from 4 different directions. And also from Silverstone, washes right through the backside of my lot. And I wouldn't do anything to change that drainage. I don't want to hurt anybody. But what y'all are talking about, has anybody done the elevations on these ditches? I don't believe anybody has even done that. You know, I don't believe the engineering's been done properly to, I know Troy has done a little bit, but he hasn't done very far down.
In response, some surveying was done by our department, and we have some data on it.
Well, I believe that if you get, first of all, I was told last week that by y'all's engineers that, everything has been done to alleviate the situation unless we have such a flood that we're all going to be messed over anyway. We're all going to flood anyway. So, I see no point in cutting those trees. It doesn't make sense. You're going to damage the property value of 10 lots by doing that. There are 10 homes on this pond. I heard some statements made tonight, like you said that you were talking about changing the freeboard on our pond. Can the parish do that? I mean, that's an outrageous thing to say to me.
What I did say was that it looks like one of the ponds doesn't have the amount of freeboard it should. Which pond is that? What is, that's the one behind your house.
So you can change the elevation of one of our weirs? I mean, you know, really it's shameful that the other 10 homeowners aren't here with me. But I'm going to tell you, they're not going to be happy about this. When you put, all of a sudden this train tracks is going to be right in their face, okay? Nobody flooded, even back in the hurricane. Troy got water up into his garage, but other than that, nobody flooded. Seven Oaks is one of the highest subdivisions in the parish, so if Seven Oaks floods, we got lots of problems. So before people go shooting from the hip, I wish that, you know, you would, you know, think this through. I'd like to look at this. I'll make this as brief as possible, but why couldn't we put a culvert on the north side of that pond? What's the problem with that? Rather than, you know, the lot, I can give you a monetary damage value of what it would cost. It's going to cost, those lots, you're going to destroy the value of by $15,000 per lot right now by doing that.
I'm not sure if they could give you an answer now. They would have to take your comments and look at it, and maybe could get back with you on it. But your 3 minutes are close to up, Mr. John.
Okay. Well, I just wish that y'all would give us some more consideration. Like I said, one culvert would do more than, you know, in other words, I understand that's changing the drainage. But if you go dumping any more down there, you're also going to be changing the drainage on Silverstone, and you're liable to hear from them. And I'm going to tell them who came up with the decision to do that.
Thank you, John.
So.
Okay, we're going to move on to number 11. Ascension Drainage Funding Priorities, Part 4. Mr. Hillingsbeck. Hang on just a second. Hang on just a second before we go to that. Yeah, okay. I got a couple more speakers in the district on different issues. Mr. Jim Fletcher. Let me back up a little bit.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Lambert. I appreciate that. I also signed up for District 4 drainage issues, and I'd like to take a few minutes. How much time do I have, by the way?
3 is what.
Well, I think I have 2 members here with me. Does that mean I have 9 minutes or 6 minutes?
Well, you got 2 members here which they signed up to talk?
No, one signed up.
Okay, so I'll give you 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman, since it had another one sign up, I make a motion we give him at least 6 minutes. He's speaking for another person.
Okay, I got a motion by Mr. Hillingsbeck, second by Mr. Dempsey Lambert.
Thank you.
Any objection? So moved.
Thank you very
6
much.
minutes.
I moved into Providence Point subdivision about 1998, and at that time I was told that there was no flood insurance required. There was no flood problems. I had no insurance required for my house. I had a LOMA document that I actually obtained from FEMA showing that, if I may see which way this document shows up. Okay. Showing our subdivision. My residence is approximately right here. On this particular document, there was a corner that was involved. Since that time, FEMA has changed the drainage in our designation, our subdivision. My residence at this point is right here. Did nothing. I stayed at the same place. Right after I moved in, I called the engineer after we had some water in our subdivision. I have some pictures that I'd like to show you that perhaps you may have seen at the time or may not, showing from the front door of my house. This was in 1901, I believe. 2001? Excuse me, I can't see that.
That was Tropical Storm Allison.
2001 in Providence Point. In 2001, this was also the same shot. And in 2004, I'd like to show you some of what's there. The point being that there's water that rises in our streets from time to time, and I keep asking myself, why is that water rising in the street? If you'll see this particular photo, if they can zero in on it enough, in the far background you'll notice the Grand Goudin. And the Grand Goudin at that point was out of its banks at that point. Was it out of its banks down in down the Goudin? No, I don't know. I don't think so. What I did see in 2002 was this picture out of the newspaper, which shows Highway Bridge 621 holding water back. And what I have seen is the DPW there at a private bridge on the Grand Goudin north of 621 digging trash out during the rainstorm, during a rain event, to try and get water to go down the Grand Goudin. Tonight I hear a lot of comments from the DPW about work that they're doing all in the north and around our particular subdivision, but I hear nothing in particular about the Grand Goudin, what's going to be done. I hear that there's a shredder purchased, and Bill Rue has made the statement that in every 5 years it'll be cleaned. However, we don't know when that's going to start. I don't know where the shredding is going to start in the parish, whether it's going to start at the Goudin or whether it's going to start somewhere else. The point that I want to make, and I want to bring this as clearly as I can, is the Grand Goudin drains 80% of the water between the airline highway and the interstate, and it goes down through Gonzales. And I have heard nothing to improve the Grand Goudin other than shredding at some future date. There's no dredging, there's no work being done on that particular waterway to help improve this subdivision, help improve our drainage. Other subdivisions have had similar problems around that area. They all go into the Goudin in that from around our area. So this evening I want you to reiterate, summarize as it were. I find that there's a lot of water that backs up there, and it has to go down through the city of Gonzales to get out of our area. The Goudin is the only way it can get there. It goes through our district. I ask that it be maintained and improved as best can be to get water out of our area during a major event. And with that, thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you, Jim. I believe that's everybody. Mr. Mitchell, you didn't want to speak on this. You declined, okay.
Got one more.
Miss Irene.
Miss Irene.
She had-
Yeah, I didn't know she was speaking. Miss Irene Peterson.
Thank you. It sounds like we have quite a bit of problems in our area. I live in Bayou Grand subdivision. Construction of yet another new development like Lake Triton has begun in my area. This development will have 232 home sites. The drainage study that was conducted on this development states that this development will have zero impact on drainage. The drainage in my area has already been impacted. It was impacted months ago before this development began. Are the engineering firms being held liable for their studies? Are the engineering firms required to post a performance bond of any kind to back their engineering? A traffic study was also done on this development. Of course, there will be zero impact on the traffic in my area when 232 new home sites are occupied. This will result in a minimum of about 464 additional vehicles on the road in this area. Will the potential residents of Lake Triton be informed of the traffic problems before they purchase the property? Will they be informed that you will have to add an additional 15 minutes to your commute time in order to creep along Highway 621 up to Highway 73 to access the interstate? Will the developer inform future residents that access to this development will be hindered when we experience heavy downpours? Will the developer inform the future residents that Tiggy Duplessis Road becomes impassable in certain areas due to the Grand Goudin overflow and back water? These problems have resulted from new developments in our area. The Planning and Zoning Commission will continue to approve new developments until every last piece of property in our area is occupied. It's up to the Drainage Board members and the members of the council to do the right thing for this parish. Please keep the residents at the first, in mind first before the development. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Irene. And Ms. Deborah Saya, I believe it is.
Good evening. I reside in Manchac Plantation. I am on Old Perkins Road, and I have met with Mr. CJ, and he has very, very nicely tried to help me with this problem that I'm having. We've been there since '03, and we had not had any drainage problem until a permit was issued to my property owner next door to me, and he has built up the property. It looks to be approximately 15 feet. Mr. CJ Godin and I met with that property owner on or about September the 19th, for which, and I will show you, hopefully this will, I don't know exactly. We discussed, this is my property line right here, and we discussed putting a ditch in right here to help with the flow of the water that was coming across the back of my property. We did put the ditch in. I think we both agreed and thought at the time that that was going to eliminate some of this problem. Well, what's happened, I think, is now we're getting the water here, and the gentleman next door has also put in a drain pipe, for which is higher, located above my drain pipe, so it's forcing all the water down, and now it's coming back on my property again, and I'll show you what I'm dealing with. This was the couple of weeks ago that we were having rain. See if I can show you. This is my driveway along the side of my house. My garage is right here. This is on a normal day. This is on normal rain that I get. August the 9th, it was on my driveway. Now, I will show you this is my backyard. This right here is a retainer wall that I have that's at the back of my garage. This is my back patio right here. This, again, is a normal day. Prior to this permit being given to him to put this dirt on his property, I had this much water, not this, in my backyard at the most. August 9th, the water was here. It was almost on my back patio. Just to give you another view, this here is my backyard again, my daughter's swing set. Again, the most we ever had was this amount overflow in our backyard until this dirt work was done next door to me. Now, I guess my question to you, is my house going to have to flood before something is going to be done about this? Or are we going to continue to allow people to put that amount of dirt and inhibit the natural flow of water onto other people's property? I would appreciate anything that y'all could do to get this resolved, because I don't want my house to flood. And I mean, I know no one does. But this is a problem. This has been an ongoing problem, and I would appreciate it if we can get this resolved. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shakespeare.
I think it's a good time to mention that everyone has come up here with different problems that has evolved throughout the parish for drainage, and unfortunately, the topography of our parish is such that it invites a lot of these problems. And so we really have to be very diligent about how we try to solve these problems and how we try to prevent these problems. With that being said, we've been working on a drainage ordinance for a considerable amount of time, for about a year. And this will address a lot of these situations that come up with these developments and how they can impact drainage for others, and that you will examples tonight. Unfortunately, when we have the meetings, it'll be addressed as strategic planning. The people that are involved in the drainage hardly ever shows up for those meetings. This is where it's done. This is where the teeth are put into the laws that protect you and give DPW the ability to keep people from flooding. And so please, if you have any questions, come to the to strategic planning meeting on the 28th, where we'll address our drainage ordinance that we need to try to get passed in the parish. We had a few things we had to clear up, and we want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. But this is what is going to help us. There's no, and we realize we have to come here and try to go back and take care of things, but prevent some of these from happening. Please have you lend your voice to us forwarding this drainage ordinance so we can move forward.
Mrs. Faulkner?
Well, Ken, I understand, that we're going to do a drainage ordinance, but we do drainage studies now, and people are being impacted. We are developing so fast right now. I mean, we have a definite flooding problem in Ascension Parish. And we know that there's problems in the Goudin, and we know that there's problems in many of our bayous, but we continue to develop and put more water into it. At some point in time, now we're having to look at the capacity of the pump to make sure that the pump is bigger. Why? Because of development. Somehow or another, we have to get a handle on what's going on and get the problem fixed before we go on to continue to developing. I mean, a lot of these problems and stuff that are taking place because of development. And I know the frustration that these people have. I flooded in my lifetime, and it wasn't pleasant. And I just think that we need to really take a look at things, because evidently engineering studies doesn't guarantee anybody anything. We get engineering studies, and I mean, this lady just came up here and said now we're letting dirt get put up. I mean, these are things that I think that we should be taking a look at and addressing some of the smaller problems and stuff that we have. We do need to work on a drainage ordinance. I agree with that. But at the same time, we've got problems that are already here that we need to fix. And that's what we have to look at tonight. I've got a notebook. This is just what I've done in 2 days put together. I have not gone back to get all my emails. All of these guys sitting around here can tell you we don't get very many phone calls from other complaints, but we sure get an awful lot of them on flooding. This is the number one problem in the parish, number one. I can't, as a councilman, continue to keep up with everybody's flooding problems. That's what we have administration for. So I wanted to make a suggestion to some of you guys tonight. I was looking over the department review done by Public Works, done on Public Works by URS. In here, they have a conflicts resolution officer. It says the conflicts resolution officer is responsible for assisting citizens of the community when faced with various types of issues that have been lingering for some time. These issues range from meeting with property owners to resolve drainage problems, assisting citizens with addressing rental requirements for parish-owned property, and addressing discourteous parish employees in other departments. This position is assigned to DPW because most of the complaints need to be addressed by the Department of Public Works staff. Now, this we had. URS has suggested that we change the title to Community Assistance Officer, which I think is a more friendly term. The only trouble is we've now moved that position to administration. I believe that we probably need to have somebody like that in administration, but I think the Drainage Board needs to have somebody like that at DPW. That's what they do. That when somebody calls me or Kent or George or anyone, that we can direct them to one person. That one person follows through with DPW, gets back to the constituent and back to the councilman what's going on. Otherwise, you have councilmen doing this, and this is just minute, because like I said, this is 2 days' work, and I've got much more to do. I think that this is what we need to do so that we can really get a handle and get a hands-on on individual people that have flooding problems on just normal rains. And so I make that recommendation tonight that we look at that as far as putting something in our major drainage department to handle just that, our complaints. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Rue.
I'd like to respond to a couple of issues. Number one, people bring complaints to us every day. We know where the problems are. In a lot of cases, there have been problems here for as long as it's been Ascension Parish in some of these areas. It's easy to say it's really easy to say we got a problem in this one locale, how we solve it. That's not a problem, solving a problem in a certain place. But for everything that we do, there's a cause and an effect. What DPW has to do is say, okay, if we do a certain project in this one subdivision, we can be moving water out of that subdivision somewhere else. Now, are we just moving the problem to another locale, or are we providing a solution to the problem as a whole? Many, many cases, we're moving the problem. Okay, we can get the water out of Seven Oaks a lot faster, but where is it going, and will that cause a problem? So we have to look at everything down the line and see what happens. Again, we can jump out there right now and double the size of the Goudin. But what will happen in AC, what will happen in Santa Ma, if the pump can't keep up, they're going to flood. People in Goudin don't flood anymore. People in AC are flooding. So again, every time we do something, there is a cause and effect. And we have to look at every issue before we go and do something, because we may be causing trouble somewhere else. When you come back to conflict resolution, the bottom line is it comes to my office and my drainage manager, drainage engineer. We're the ones that have to make the decision. Now, you can have 4 or 5 people doing conflict resolution. Basically what they're doing is they're going from the constituent to us, back to the constituent, back to us, back to the constituent, back to us. Bottom line is we have to make the decision. We have to come up with a solution to the problem. And to me, it's just putting another layer of bureaucracy there, because we're the ones that have to talk to the people. We're the ones that have to come up with a solution. So on that issue there,
I agree with that, Bill. But if you had somebody that was, managing, we wouldn't have to be constantly taking Alan's time. Sending these complaints. I understand that, but Alan needs to be in the,
he has people in the field that have field work. That is his job as manager of the drainage department. That is why he's getting paid.
Well, I'm just going by the recommendation. We paid these people to bring us a recommendation, and I'll bring the recommendation that URS brought to us, and that's what I think that would help solve some of our problems at our end up here.
And just the last comment, just like Mr. Shakespeare said, is that I don't think everybody in this on the board has read the drainage ordinance. There's a lot of power in that ordinance, a lot of things in that ordinance that allows us to go to developers and demand that they do not put foreign fill on a piece of land. Right now, we do not have that power. We can go talk to them. We don't have the power to say, do not load that dirt on it. Dig a pond. Do not bring foreign fill in. We can't do all that. We can demand developers go to a higher standard, and when developing a piece of land, out of the 10-year, we can go 15, 25, 50-year design if we see where it's a problem area. We cannot do that now. So again, look at the ordinance. We need to pass this drainage ordinance so we can do more policing of the problems. So that's it.
I'm going to give Mr. Michael Marshall, head of the chairman of the Planning Commission. I think he wants a couple minutes.
Just 1 minute.
1 minute.
Because I'd like to respond to a couple of statements that were made. Ms. Fontenot, to a point, I do agree with you. It is development. But it's not all development. The complaints you're hearing are from older subdivisions. Right now, the newer subdivisions, the newer developments that we are looking at, that we approve, are actually having to take in some of the water from these existing subdivisions. And eventually that was going to happen because when these older subdivisions were developed, there was nothing there and nothing around them. And now there's something there. Yes, we require drainage impact study. We have an ERA, and that ERA is reviewing these impact studies, and like Mr. Roos said, if they got issues, we try to take care of that. They're doing extra things in some cases that normally they wouldn't have to do, but they're cooperating because they want these developments to go through. Now, one of the things that I've seen, and it's not the newer developments. It's the older developments, and in some cases, it's the parish-maintained ditches, because we can't get around to catch all of them. We require drainage servitudes. The drainage servitudes have to be maintained. All that takes time. We can't catch every single one of them every time we need to. We also have residents who are building fences in drainage servitudes, and the commission's been trying to address that. And there's a lot of little things that are taking place, but they all add up. Now, as the chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission, I'm open to any suggestions. But I do agree, we need stiffer ordinances. We do need to continually review our ordinances and see where there are deficiencies, and we need to address those deficiencies.
Mr. Marshall, I know we're working on all of that, and there are a lot of problems that collectively need to be worked on. But I guess, I'm listening to my constituents, and my constituents are hollering to me about the developments, the new developments. And the main reason is because they know that every time a house goes up, trees are cut down, which absorb water. Every time a house goes up, cement goes down, which causes the water to run off and not get absorbed into the ground. So new development is causing a lot of the problems. Even if you're trying to contain it over here or do this with it, it's still causing a problem. And I think that the people are just wanting to try to make sure that we get a handle on the existing problems before we allow, more problems.
And I agree with you, we do need to do that. But I might get in trouble for what I'm going to say next. The commission's made a suggestion to the council a little over a year ago. And that suggestion has gone to strategic planning, and I haven't heard the first thing about it ever since.
I support
And I've got 3 commissioners sitting on strategic planning right now, and I've asked several times if there's been any discussion, and nothing has come about. So, suggestions have been made. There are options out there. It kind of boils down to who's willing to go ahead and make the tough decision.
Mr. Marshall, what suggestion is that?
That was a suggestion of the commission to place a moratorium on new residential development in this parish.
We've had that discussion, and we brought it to I beg to differ with you. We had that discussion. We brought it to full council, and it has been talked about and discussed.
That is correct. It
and
for the full council at one point.
No one,
with strategic planning.
No one has offered a motion to have a moratorium put on development at this point in time. And if anybody would like to tonight, please speak up. And if not, we need. But right now, we have no one that has offered a moratorium.
You really can't put a moratorium until you have a plan to fix the problem. So I would think that before you could do anything, you'd need to plan first, because you can't just stop development just for the sake of stopping it. The whole point of doing a timeout, which is all a moratorium is to put a plan in place to alleviate a problem.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I got one thing from Mr. CJ. CJ, on flood, Mr. CJ? Floodplain areas, with floodplain, being a floodplain manager, I think you and I talked about this, as far as someone filling a stream of where it normally flows, fill it up with dirt. Can they do that at the present right now? I think you have looked in some information that says we can stop that.
Well, there's a state law that says you can't.
Okay.
You can't impact the adjacent landowner negatively.
So that's in presence right now. We can stop that if we needed to.
Right, well, it's a state law, and it really is legal. I think our council is getting ready to comment on that.
It's a private right of action.
Private
I think we
right
was talking about it's a private right. If you cause damage to your neighbor's property, it's
So
a
you said
private
it's
right
a
of
civil
action.
matter, it's between the homeowner and the homeowner has to go to
Absolutely.
court
It's not
with it.
our matter if there's a dispute between landowners, if it's not impacting our drainage ditches.
But
It's
a neighbor cannot build up and flood his neighbor. He
Right,
would
but
lose
that's a
in
matter
court.
between the neighbors, not a matter of the drainage board. Unless you have an ordinance, unless there's an ordinance that talks about that.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. We're gonna move on to,
May I ask one question, please? And how is it that a permit can be given to allow that person to put the dirt on the property for which impacts the person next door, which inhibits the natural flow of the water back on to that property owner that was already there? Thank you.
okay, we're gonna move on. Mr. Hillensbeck, number 11, Ascension Drainage Funding Priority Part 4. He's got a 5-minute presentation for us, I'm sure.
It'll be a little long, but it will be much shorter than the previous.
I'm gonna give you 5 minutes, Mr. Hillensbeck.
I remind you, CDM tonight, they ran over on their presentation.
That was coming
never
from
was an
DPW.
issue.
That
Never
was
an issue.
that
Thank
was
you.
issues from DPW.
We ready to roll in there, Ozzy? Yeah, this is part 4. We're not moving, Ozzy. There we go, there we go, there we go. I was clicking the wrong one. Okay. I want to remind taxpayers that in June 2005 was a vote to shift priorities. And by the way, a lot of what I'm going to say tonight kind of ties into all these discussions all along. Drainage Board stopped the dredging program. We threw away $1.3 million on dredging preparation costs of getting ready to dredge Black Bayou and Bayou Francois. We shifted funding priority from the most populated, fastest developing areas of the parish to a remote area of the parish, and the new emphasis was now the levee. We've had some discussion on the levee tonight. Of course, the entire basis for the shift was the 1982 Follett Plan, also known as the 1982 Master Drainage Plan. Voters approved in 1984 at the ballot box a half-cent sales tax, and that was to fund this particular plan, drainage plan. A few things I want to hit on. In December, I did my first presentation. It was part 1. Attempts were made at the last minute to keep me from televising the meeting, so I paid to have the meeting televised, and then Mr. Byriger was gracious enough to help share the cost, so I appreciate that, Jared. Taxpayers were reminded at that time that members of McConnell, Dempsey, Lambert, Thompson, and myself, back in June, tried to get this drainage board to slow down and not shift priorities back in June of '05. During that particular Part 1 presentation, taxpayers also reminded Mr. Savoy, Ms. Fontenot, Mr. Lambert, Todd Lambert, Mr. Byriger, Scheck-Snyder, and Valentine, all voted no to first studying this shift in priorities. And we're now paying an engineer firm $547,000 to study building a levee per the Follett Plan of 1982. Okay. During that meeting, Ms. Fontenot defended her positions. You listen, there's going to be a short video it's going to play. For the benefit of my people in my district, when I voted to redirect this money, it's $15 million, it was because of this plan. When I got elected, I got this plan, and I started reading this plan. I take drainage seriously in Ascension Parish. They asked us to not be territorial, but to represent the whole parish. We dusted off the plan. We're going to follow the plan. If someone has a better plan, we'll look at it. However, for now, this is the plan. We're following the plan moving forward with Ascension Parish. Play the video, Ozzy. Whoop. Can you play the video, Ozzy? Mr. Osborne. Ozzy, are you in the room? Can you get it to play? How do we get it to play? Oh, okay. Well, I sent it to you and I thought you had it.
Yeah, there was
That's
some
another
technical
thing, Mr.
problems.
Hillenbeck. On PowerPoint presentation, we made a statement before that you give
For
it
the
to them a couple
benefit
days
of my
ago
people
to help out
that's in my
technology department.
district. When I voted to redirect this money, it was because of this plan. I got this plan when I first got elected, and I began reading the plan. I take drainage serious in Ascension Parish. They've asked us not to be territorial or police jurists, but to be councilmen for the whole parish. That's where I'm going, and that's what I tried to do. Two things were said tonight that I need to clear up. The northern part of the parish, where my people are, were not affected by any kind of redirecting at all. This water drains into Manchac. It doesn't go to our pumping station. The other part of my area that did get flooded, the water does go to the pumping station, but it couldn't get there because of debris. That has been taken care of. We talked about that earlier tonight. I complimented Mr. Rue and his staff for cleaning out the Goudin Port that caused a lot of major flooding in Prairie Oaks and Silverstone and some of these other areas that were in my district. Our DPW is working on those problems. They've made that a priority, and they're working on it. Had that water gotten to the pumping station, it would have helped a whole lot. It couldn't get to the pumping station, and the pumping station people informed me that they had to start cutting the pumps off because they couldn't get enough water down, and they were drawing it down too far. The reason the water wasn't getting down there from my area was because it just couldn't get through. It had nothing to do. If the water had gotten through, our pumps would have been working and everything would have been fine. That's the drainage plan. He said this, the 1982, this is Mr. Hillenbeck's quote, it was a good plan. It is a good plan. We need to implement it. We need to find out. If it's not, if there's some flaws, I mean, time has passed. Maybe we need to readdress some things. But at this point in time, that is the only plan we have. And that's the only one we can follow at this point. Thank you. Well, I just wanted to say that
Mr. Hillenbeck,
part
you got
of what
another minute.
we heard about Katrina and the levees in New Orleans was that people knew there was a problem and they did nothing about it. They just talked about it. Well, we know, just as Mr. Shakespeare and Mr. Savoy said, that the Laurel Ridge levee is important to not just a few right now, but to the many in a certain type flood situation. You don't wait till the flood situation gets here to do it. You have to do it now. We have got to be proactive. We got the drainage plan out again. We dusted it off, and we're ready to move and progress with it with what should have already been done. This is not a political board at all. This is a board that's working to move Ascension Parish forward. And if you can't see that by our actions, I don't know what else we can do to prove it to you.
All right, your minute's up.
Mr. Chairman, I know you don't want me to.
I got a motion on the floor to move the presentation be closed.
Mr. Chairman, I know you don't want to be accused of me not being able to inform the public. This is an informational brief for the taxpayers of Ascension Parish.
This is information that we've seen four times already.
There's a little different twist, and I'm getting to it. Please let me finish.
We got a motion.
The presentation we made a procedure on this board, 5 minutes. For him to go further than 5 minutes, he has to be granted by this board. I have seen everything so far on this presentation that I have seen before. There's nothing new.
Okay.
It's Mr. Hillenbeck's show, grandstand. For whatever reason, he has to do this to get his name in the paper. Whatever he's got to do, he's continued to give the same thing. We're wasting time. We're spending more than 3 and 4 hours at drainage board's meeting here, and frankly, I'm tired of it. If he wants to do something, let him do like he did about the TV. Go buy time on Channel 4 or on Cops and in E-Tail and show us presentation on that. We got to take care of the parish business, and what we do is waste time here, listen to his allegations. He's the only one that keeps bringing up everybody's name. He puts everybody's name in here to make himself look good. Again, you know, he made a statement a while ago about it. Well, he's been warning us about the deadline on the mitigation. But did he know there was 29 conditions we haven't met? He didn't bring it. He's derelict in his duty if he didn't tell us what we had to do. So my point is, you know, why I gotta sit here and listen to it? I don't.
George, go get you a cup of coffee. You don't have to sit and listen to it.
We're gonna
Let me
move
finish.
on. We're gonna move
Not
on.
me.
Point of order. We're gonna move on to
In other words,
item number 12.
Mr. Chairman, so in other words, you're not in favor of,
We have a
of me
procedure
informing
in
the
place,
people.
Mr. Chairman.
We got a procedure in place, and I give you more than your 5 minutes. So we're gonna move on.
Motion to act on it. You
We're
can act.
gonna move on to number 12, which is contract between Paul Keller and East Ascension Drainage Board, Mr. Adrian Thompson. But I believe we're gonna pass on that. I've talked to Mr. Paul Keller, and we're gonna discuss this a little bit further. We're going to move on to number 13, report on contracting out work versus work done in-house. Mr. Kent Shakespeare.
Yes, we brought this up in the past about talking to DPW and Mr. Allen about possibly looking into doing some contracting work, see the feasibility of doing that in order to speed up digging these ditches and cleaning these areas in the parish, and we wanted to get an update on that. Mr. Rule, Mr. Allred.
Yeah, we're getting another copy. The secretary will make some copies of another sheet. But you should have in your packet, I hand it out to you, two documents. One is called Job Schedule for Shredder Machine. That's a Parish, the one we're buying. And the other document is chipping jobs, and that is some heavy, large projects that we contacted another company to give us a price on. And the chipping job for outside contractor to come in and do, of course, you see it there, actually the Laurel Ridge levee, and it's not Laura, Beco Road to Black Bayou, and so on and so forth. The bid for it to do that is $875,000, I think, the quote to do that. It comes out to about $18.50 a foot. This is an enormous amount of money to do this type of work. It is a lot of work. It's heavy shredding of some big trees, doing some of our major channels. The other list is jobs that we intend to do with the shredding machine that we're buying. That should be delivered shortly. It's more of a maintenance machine. It'll take down, I think, 15-inch or something like this and below. But again, we looked at the possibility of going, subbing out the big stuff, and that enable our machine to catch up and do all the maintenance and keep it on a routine basis. The other thing we looked at is doing some rip-rap work that was already commissioned by the board to do. We put it out for quotes. We haven't had anybody except just recently one person called back to inquire a little bit more about it, one contractor. We really haven't had too many people interested in it that would give us a quote. We had a few other jobs that we put out to try to get some quotes on. Again, we had very little interest
For the benefit of my
from the contractors out there. Since the post-Katrina hurricane and Rita, all of these contracting firms are pretty busy. When they do give us a price, as in the case of the chipping job by the outside contractor, they ask an enormous amount of money. Again, $875,000 on that neighborhood to do that. Now, we did a little cost comparison, and really we could buy for several $100,000, and I don't have it in front of me. Oh, for about $258,000, you can buy a whole new rig the same size as the one this contractor can use to take down these big trees, and that's with manpower to run it and support staff with it. So, again, we can look at outsourcing. When you put the figures down and you really look at what you're getting, you actually can buy more equipment, hire more men, and still do it for sometimes a third of the cost than outsourcing some of this stuff. But again, if the decision of the board is to go on outsourcing, we can, but we're finding that, number one, we're not getting the interest of the contractors, and ones that are interested is asking an enormous amount of money for them to come in and do it. So that's what we've been able to find out this last month or so.
question, Mr. Schuster?
I'm
Still got
just
the floor.
curious, for the 875,000, what jobs was that again?
Or that, if you see the list, just chipping jobs.
Oh, that's the chipping job that
Right.
they have
It
there.
got, again, it's Laura, but it's actually supposed to be
Yeah,
Laurel Ridge.
Laurel Ridge, I understand.
And so on. That's a job that they quoted, the distance they quoted, and again, it comes out about $18.50 a foot. So,
And how much would it cost us to do that?
well, it cost us, and I think, did you hand this out?
Yes.
This other sheet, we did a comparison, because we get the same size equipment, that enable us to do the same exact work that this guy's doing, with a support group. It comes to $258,000, rough
but how-
estimate.
Once we got this, how long and how much would it cost us to do these jobs? These are some significant jobs here. This is
right.
some significant
The estimate
things
we
in the
have,
parish.
the estimate we have here is on a yearly basis. Operator.
We could do this in a
rate that
year?
For a year.
We could do this in a year.
I think we could. Now, they're saying 90 days, but that's not a firm quote. He just, looked at the figures and looked at the distance and told us just off the cuff, not committing to anything, that he could probably do it in 90 days. But at what price? And again, if you want to do it in 90 days or 100 days and spend $750,000 doing it, or over $750,000, compared to doing it in, say, 6 months or a year for $258,000 or $300,000. I mean, this is a decision y'all have to make.
Well, and I think where we were headed is that if we take a look and we do take a ditch on area and we do our due diligence, we do right away, we do survey, we do check for power lines, anything else that comes along, and then once we do our due diligence, we offer it to 3 people for bids and see what happens. And yet we don't have. How many people put in for the 875,000?
We only could find one person interested.
All right, to do this.
We got another company that may be looking at it, but that's it.
And
going back to the other statement I made is that, even in some lesser jobs, we could get very little interest from some of the contractors.
And that was after you've done due diligence and we gave them all the information and say, here, you can just bid on this job to do the work?
We even asked them just to come look at it, and we couldn't get a lot of people interested even looking at it.
Well, this is a very significant amount of work to be done. So regardless, I'm not sure whether we can do that for that amount of money or not. If we can, and that's the equipment that we need to do it, then we need to move forward and do it. And that's fine. But I want the most cost-effective way to get these things done. These areas are major laterals, major drainage areas that are stopping people from getting proper drainage in this parish, and they hadn't been cleaned out in years. Not 5 years, not 10 years. We're talking about 20 and 30 years, and we need to make sure we get this done. And so, you give us some scenarios as to what we can make a decision on, a proper decision to spend our money wisely and efficiently to get this done, and then we can take a look at it and make a good decision. I'm getting an idea that you tend to favor us doing it in-house, spending money to get another piece of equipment to do this.
Actually, I'd rather go the other way. I mean, I'd rather go and hire most everything out, big projects, sub it all out, outsource it. However, the other problem I have is a steward of the parish money. I mean, my budget. And to look at, some of these quotes coming in, that's 2 and 3 times what we really consider a good price, mainly because no one else is bidding and they got so much other work going on in South Louisiana that they just naming that price. Well, then, when you look at it from that standpoint, well, maybe it's not a good deal. As much as I like to outsource it and you get it away from us completely, I think it's incumbent on us to say, look at the price. And even though it's more work for us, our department, it might be better to hire the equipment, hire the manpower, and go ahead and do it.
Well, and
in-house.
I'm looking, and I'm thinking about if I would be bidding, how much due diligence have we given these people in order to make a bid? Have we given them all the information that they have necessary to make an accurate bid, or are we saying, here's a project, and we want to bid on you? Because if I'm making a bid and I don't know whether we have pipelines, if I don't know if we have survey or right-of-way or anything like that, I'm going to bid way high because I'm not certain what's going to happen. But if I have some information and all the due diligence that is done, and I can make a bid to do the work, then we can do this for a reasonable amount of money. And I just want to know where we are on that. Are we on one or the other?
The fact is we wanted to get some kind of estimates from some of the contractors to give us a ballpark of what we're looking at, and we could not get that many people interested just to come and talk to us and give us a quote, a starting point. And again, to reiterate, like I've been doing just about every board meeting, is that to do what you're saying, it take actually engineering drawings. It has to take a lot of work because the public bid law and everything else mandates that we put together engineering reports, put in engineering design, or some type of documents like that together to give to the contractor. So you might be talking about 2 or 3 months of engineering work just to give it out. And I don't like the procedure. I don't like having to jump through those hoops. But by law, we have to supply that before we can get a bid on something. So that's why we go to the route of trying to get quotes and estimates to give you a choice to make a decision which way to go.
And where do we stand if we do this in-house? Where do we stand right now for progress to doing these jobs? Or are we ready to go with manpower and equipment? We're ready to go forward with them?
Well, we have to hire up if we're going to get another piece of equipment.
All right, and what due diligence do we need to do? In other words, Beco Road to Black Bayou. Can we get started on that, or do we have to do?
You have to get, again, if
right
the
away
decision,
for a year, or
decision
do
of the
we have
board,
to do?
The decision of the board is to say, look, get the equipment and go ahead and man up and try to do most of this in-house, the heavy chipping. Then we could, and authorize us to spend the money up to $250,000 additional to our budget to move forward on this. Then we'll move forward. We'll go ahead and we'll get the equipment what's needed. We'll get the purchase order going, and we'll start moving manpower around to start doing the work. Some of it, if in fact we don't do as much on the dredging or the digging of the bayous because of permitting or whatever, some of this manpower will be automatically pushed back to the shredding jobs, which they are capable of doing. I mean, so we can move people around. The main thing is authorizing us to spend additional money and do the work in-house.
I'm fine with using the additional money to do the work in-house if we have things in place, and we hear this constantly, well, we would be doing it, but we're waiting on right-of-way, or we're waiting on this, or we're waiting on that. Are we ready to move forward?
You don't need right-of-way to go down the middle of some of these bayous or along the edge of some of these large drainage channels. We already have right-of-way.
So we would be ready right now to start on some of these jobs and move forward if we had the material and the manpower.
Yes.
Okay.
Offer that as a motion, Keith.
I would.
And let's move on.
I would like to see us move forward, and I would like to hear from other members to hear what they think. I think we may need to look and get a little bit more information. I am very much in favor of us moving forward toward this area because these are major things. This is what causes a lot of people to flood. Mm-hmm. These are major laterals that come off of subdivisions and other things, and they just haven't been addressed in the past 20, not any fault of anybody else, they haven't been addressed. And until we push it, until we bite the bullet and spend the money it takes to clean these areas, we're going to continue to have problems. And so I would like to make sure or urge this body to move forward with getting to the point where we get these major laterals dug, cleaned, chipped, whatever it takes to get them clean so we can move forward. This is major drainage in the parish. This is what we should be doing.
So you want this in a motion of what?
To move forward with it. Now, whether we have enough information tonight and we feel comfortable to spend the extra amount of money and do that, or if we don't feel comfortable and we need to wait and get more information, I'm welcome to wait until the next meeting, and we'll get more information to move forward, but we need to move forward in some way, shape, or form.
Mr. Valentine.
Thank you. Mr. Rue, and I, all sincere, nothing against DPW, nothing against anything. I mean, we are having problems getting all this together. A lot of our problems stem from the fact that we have workers that work for the drainage board, and we have workers that work for, you know, I mean, I don't know how we plan our everyday routines, you know. Do we go work on road and bridge stuff one day, or we do work on drainage board stuff one day? I guess my point is this. I've heard your arguments on in-house, out-of-house. I heard Mr. Shakes and I bring that up. I would just like to see us get one of these projects and just spec it out. Say it's got to clean. I had a major firm that contacted me last week that is actually a local firm that has marsh buggers and everything. They brought me a brochure and said, you know, we used to do work for the parish once in a while. You contract me out. You know, in fact, the reason why he brought me the brochure was because he saw the meeting where this was brought up, where we were talking about contracting out. His question to me is, when are you going to do it so that we can bid on it? So, I mean, it's a local firm. I'm not going to mention it. I won't give them a plug, but it's a local established firm that wants to do work, that has the equipment. I pass it every day, and going to my work, and I know they can do it. It's a matter of going down the middle of a ditch, like you said, and clearing it up. I know they can do that. You know, I mean, yes, I think we need to put it out to see what it comes back. We can always reject the bids because it's too high, if it's sky high, but we're never going to know unless we put it out there and see who's out there that's available. And I think that's what this drainage board is interested in, just getting some work done. We're having a lot of times of discussion around here. People don't see the work being done, and it's difficult to explain to them. Well, we got it in progress. Government is slow. Ain't no doubt about it. Been in it a long time. It rolls like a snail, but you know, once in a while, a snail does get somewhere. You know, we need to get somewhere on this. So I'm in favor of you putting that together. One of these. I don't care which one it is. Let's put it out. Let's see if we can get it cleaned.
Mr. McConnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I agree with a lot of what was said. And Mr. Rue put it very well. I think sometimes to be a better steward of the people's money is to spend more money than you could be by doing it in-house, because for the various reasons that were expressed earlier, and you don't know what's going on, we don't have the necessary plan and so forth like that. I'm not comfortable making a decision on this tonight. I would really like to talk to Bill a little further and to the administration about this.
Put it back on the next page.
But we need to get things done. We need to make things happen. I believe often by getting the private sector to take care of that for us is the most expedient means of getting things done. So I'm going to I'll be talking about this with Mr. Rue in the coming month, and I'd like to see it come up again. But we certainly need to make a decision as quickly as we can.
Bill, major drainage employees, comparing it to, what is the amount we have right now? 20, I think it's 20 something. And the major drainage employees?
How many we have?
Yeah. Is it 23?
Oh, no. We have many. We have more than that.
Now this is just major drainage.
No, that's no. We have more than that. The most of the people employed by major drainage for us, the major work is paid through major drainage funds and or 04 minor drainage funds, but mostly major drainage funds. They are not percentaged out on roads or anything else. So if you see if the man is working for major drainage, he is paid for from major drainage funds and is doing nothing but major drainage work. The only people that work on roads, combination people, are the people, mostly grass cutters, who go cut grass along the road and off the road at the same time. So major drainage people do not work on roads unless there's a major emergency where they have to assist. Everybody works together then to clear roadways or whatever during hurricanes and other emergencies. Other than that,
so we have enough employees right now to handle all the equipment that we have. No, we don't have any idle equipment, is what I'm getting at.
We have from time to time. From time to time, we do have idle equipment. They're done. The main reason for it is because either something wrong with the piece of equipment or absenteeism.
Okay.
And the biggest problem that we have, I guess, would be absenteeism, causing a piece of equipment to not be used. or we've got some operators that go back and forth between various pieces of equipment. So you might see one piece of equipment now, but that operator is on another one that is being utilized, and we don't need the first one.
Thank you. Kent, you want to just put it back on for next?
Yes, please.
So we can discuss it within administration this month and go from there. All right, we're going to move on to Chairman's report. I got one thing. Next meeting falls on a holiday, Labor Day. So we're going to go to September 11th, which is
so
the
moved,
second
Mr.
Monday.
Chairman.
Got a
Second.
motion by Mr. McConnell, second by Mr. Shakespeare. Any objection? So moved. New business.
Chairman.
Mr. Hillingsbeck.
I got one item. Before I get into that item, Heather, put drainage funding priorities part 4 back on for the next meeting, and I'll use my 5 minutes during the next presentation to continue my PowerPoint. The other thing I want to bring to the board's attention is I want to remind you all that Sean Vicknair from the Corps of Engineers, I believe it was at the last meeting, he stood up at the microphone at the podium with Ms. Marion Miles, and he made the statement that we're getting no credit whatsoever for our existing levees. Okay, no credit whatsoever. And if you remember what he said because they're not at plus 2 feet above the base flood elevation BFE. And I just want to remind this board, I think before we go out there and we build additional levees, I really think we need to, I think the taxpayers would expect us to improve and support the existing levees and also continue the dredging. Thank you.
I got Mr. William Klein on to speak, and I'm not sure whether it's new business or old business, so I'm going to let him come up.
Okay. Good evening. My
In
name
3
is
minutes.
Bill Klein. Hear about the drainage servitude on Highway 73 between Prairie Oaks and Wedgewood Development. The new construction in Wedgewood is building their fences and bringing their yards right up into the drainage servitude and blocking it. As a result, we're having drainage problems now. This is, how do I work this thing?
Just put it there.
Just put it on there, they'll get it. Okay. This is what a 15-foot drainage servitude should look like. This is the drainage servitude going between the center, down the center of Prairie Oak subdivision. This is the servitude going behind my back fence. No, that's fine. Okay. That's the servitude going behind my back fence and the new Wedgewood construction. You can see there's only about a 2-foot gap there. So we had good drainage, and it's being destroyed because nobody is enforcing the regulations in place for drainage. That's my point. So now my backyard is flooding out, straight out. That's my backyard July 4th week because the servitude in place is not being protected. This is not a $200,000 pass-in repair job. This is enforcing the regulations in place. And I would like something done about it. That's all I've got to say. That's ridiculous that this should happen.
Bill, you want to get the right-of-way guy to check this out and make sure that he's in the servitude?
I found out if we had any complaints on it. The only way we can react to a lot of this is like this. A complaint is given to us, and we go out. The other thing we do, and the only thing we can do, is turn this over to our attorney. We give them notice. They need to move it. If not, we turn it over to the attorney, and the attorney files suit against the people, and they have to move it. But that's the procedure. We can't go out there, and force them at that instant to move the fence.
I have called 5 times since the middle of May through the middle of July. And I've been told I'll get back to you, or it's an engineering problem, not a drainage clearance problem, and that's why I'm here. I've made 5 phone calls with no results. I am here now to get results. That's all I want.
We'll look at the situation and determine first thing that if the fence is in the drainage servitude, and then we'll
follow procedure
with the attorney to do
please,
something about
please
it.
do so. Mr. President?
If I may, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is one of the issues we brought up with the subdivision regulations we need to change.
I was at a subdivision yesterday evening. Similar situation where we're putting servitudes in between lots within the same block. And what's happening once these subdivisions are approved and parish government kind of is out of the picture in the permitting process, when people are building these fences, okay, and I'm convinced now after 31 months or however long we've been fighting this issue that we're putting more on public works at the back end than we're going to possibly handle in this parish over the year. We have got to stop it on the front end. And we've got to get a full-time parish attorney because I can take you out where I've been. We met with Public Works in Baton Rouge last week. Their director, how are you dealing with this? He got 4 attorneys working just for Public Works. Okay? And they only got about 4 times more people we got. And I'm not sure they got more residential development than us. But Mr. Newkirk got 4 attorneys just working on Public Works issues. And so the only way we're going to stop this if you guys want to get serious about it, and I can appreciate this gentleman's plight, and that's what they do. Mr. Newkirk, his Public Works Director, they turn it, and Mr. Rue was up there with me, they turn it over to this attorney, and then they take action to enforce the code. We don't have a code enforcement officer can go around to all these fences because we're finding out about it just like this. I go out and ride around and find one like I told you I think a while back. One of our citizens is actually building a house or dog house or toy house, I'm not sure what it is, behind his fence into our servitude along the drainage canal, and then put his excess lumber along the bank, probably waiting for the next high water to carry it somewhere else and stop up a culvert or a drain. There's no way with the present people we have working in planning, development, and public works, and with using assistant district attorneys, unless O'Neill's going to become full-time, because these are all over. Every subdivision, old and new, once, well, let me repeat that. Anytime you say ever, it's probably wrong. This problem is all over the parish, with fences being put in servitude. And so when there's a drainage canal on the perimeter of this subdivision, it really becomes a problem because the one I was in the other day, and I think it's in Mr. Valentine's district, in the Gosma area, we can't even get equipment between the fences and the drainage canal. And this one lady said, well, Mr. Hughes, we know we're not supposed to do this, but we're going to put our fence up where we can unscrew it and take it down when your tractor comes through. So this is the point it's gotten to. And so what I ask you guys to do is to authorize us that we either get out of that business and we tell the developer you're going to take care of it for the life of your community, or else we require the surveying stakes, the land is donated to the parish, we own it, and they're fenced, and that surveying stake, and a lot of people are going to have smaller backyards on the perimeters of these areas. But then they will not put that fence. They'll put that fence where their corners actually are, and that other land's been donated to the parish. Because this is all over the place, ladies and gentlemen, okay? Let's not fool ourselves. This is happening everywhere, and most of it is happening after the fact. Once the subdivision's all been approved, permits have been issued, unless we're going to hire several people to start going around and enforcing fences, and we're not going to solve it. And you guys all know if we start going through and running over fences with parish equipment to cut the grass along the drainage canal, and in this instance is inside a block where 2 neighbors put a fence up and they leave a foot in between it, and technically we do have a servitude there of 15 feet within that same block. The houses are backing up to each other, and that's all over the place as well. So I've been out looking at that a lot lately, and so I will put in the budget this coming year so a legal person to deal with this if we want, because I don't know no other way of solving this problem, because we're talking about having to go back now, and then going forward we got to prevent it, because Public Works they can't deal with this. They can't keep up with all of this, with all the new subdivisions in our parish, to where Public Works is going to be going in there and cutting grass inside subdivisions in addition to the perimeters of these subdivisions where we're putting in these drainage ditches, where we already have natural canals already there for drainage. And so, yeah, we need your help. Administration needs your help as a drainage board and as a whole council to deal with that single issue on the front end. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Shakespeare.
Well, I mean, that was my thing. Has this been turned over to legal? And if it hasn't, why not? You know, are we over budget right now in what we spent on legal for this? And I agree with Parish President. If we need that and you're going to handle that, that's fine. So we've gotten to the point now where that we've stopped handing it over to legal.
Legal has never gotten it. Anytime we've gotten a letter, we send it out immediately.
All right, so
you got to have an inspector to go out and inspect and give us stuff. We're not going to. No lawyer is going to go out and do inspections on fences.
Exactly, and that's my point. If either we spend extra money and put it in the budget for next year, but this is this year. If we need extra money to do that, then come to us. But let's do what we're supposed to do. This fella has a problem. He's filed a complaint. Our process right now is to take it and bring it to legal. Let's bring it to legal, issue it to legal, let them send out the letters and try to get something done. But to do nothing and then put it on a budget for next year, I don't think we should do that. I think we need to move forward on this. And if it's a budget problem, then come to us and let's amend the budget to take care of it. But let's take care of the problem. You know, it hasn't been to legal. Your complaint has not been addressed. Again, another reason why a conflict resolution officer might follow up on that and inform us. But we need to address people's complaints and take care of it. And the process is in place, and we have not done it. So we need to do this. The other thing I'd like to move on is that we've shown tonight we're spending $200-something thousand for mitigation on land. We've mentioned about a year and a half ago about looking into mitigation banks. Have we made any progress on getting a mitigation bank, buying mitigation bank for this parish that we can bank land on?
We looked at it several years ago. We haven't revisited it because of the fact you're not going to get it. The point of the matter is, if you get a mitigation bank, to come out, you might be able to spend, $5,000, maybe even $10,000 to buy the property, and that's the only way you can come out. The property owners will not sell you for $5,000 or $10,000 a lot of their property. They can use it for something else.
Well,
the fact if you get a mitigation bank, you lock that piece of property up for eternity. It stays
I understand.
as a mitigation. That property owner, his heirs, nobody can touch it, do anything with it. Most property owners don't want that.
But mitigation banks are bought or installed in a number of municipal agencies and whatever. 40 acres of mitigation was granted to the community college. Mr. Robert and them got 40 acres donated by Texaco. We have enough industry in this parish that is not going to use land that they may want to dedicate. That this is something that's important enough that we need to put some emphasis on it, that we can save a great deal of money, because we may need, down the line, we're going to need to mitigate a lot of land. And so I would hope that we put some emphasis on this from the top down, and we look at people that we have in this parish that are not planning on doing anything with their land, using it for buffers and such, and that we could possibly work some type of agreement to mitigate some of this property. It's being done by other people, and I'd like to see it done by us. And the other people, the other thing is that I would...
Kent, excuse me, let me let Martin speak on that other item before we move on.
Yeah, I don't think we were finished debating the first subject, and you kind of changed it on me there. Maybe I'm oversimplifying things, but I don't understand why we need a cadre of attorneys and all of that if somebody has built a fence on parish right-of-way. There's lines and all of that that's drawn. I don't know why we can't just send our right-of-way guy out there with a tape measure, and I think in 5 minutes he can determine whether the fence is on the property or not. And a standard form letter could say, you've got a fence on our property line, you have X days to get rid of it, and if you don't, then we'll come with our $175,000 Daewoo LC300, and we'll take care of it for you and send you the bill. I think we're making things way too complicated. I mean, if somebody built a fence on a property, tell them that it's there and get it out of there.
And
I'll cite a personal example.
Right.
I mean,
You
the company where I work, we put some banners out on the highway once. And apparently it was a few feet into the state's right-of-way, and the parish came one morning and pulled them up and threw them in the back of the truck in the trash and just drove off with it. And they didn't consult her. And I was 2 feet into the state right-of-way on a temporary banner. So it can be done without a new legal department, I think, in the parish. So, now, if I'm oversimplifying, but I don't know why we can't just do that and just take care of it.
Mr. Parrington, can we just do that?
We should send them a notice and tell them we're going to do it before we move their fences. We just can't go out and knock them down.
That's
But
right.
if they're in our right away.
And if they refuse,
Tell them, in my letter, I tell them if they don't do it, we're going to move it. Okay. You tell them that in my letter. The other issue, though, is we need to make sure that we treat all right-of-way fences the same. You can't pick out one person and say, move your fence out of the right-of-way and let everybody else in the subdivision leave their right-of-way in. And that's been an issue that I've always addressed to everyone, is if we're going to do it, we need to do it. And everybody's got to get their fence out of the right-of-way.
Certainly.
And I've done that in some subdivisions.
the other issue, what we try to do is go out there and really make sure that it is impacting drainage or the maintenance of that ditch. Because a lot of times we find...
No, if it's on the right-of-way, it's on the right-of-way.
Not necessarily. I mean, again, if that's the issue, then we wholesalely send out 5,000 letters. We just get everybody out there. We issue 5,000 letters, and then we go in, we put a crew together, and for about 6 months, we do nothing but tear out fences. And then y'all get the repercussions of that. The fact of the matter is, a lot of times we have to go out there, and if there's a whole series of fences along the servitude, and everything's maintained, and there's no problem, with the exception of maybe one or two, we handle that. If it's not impacting our drainage, it's not really something that we get involved with because it's not hurting anything. They're taking care of that drainage servitude for us. Only when they impact drainage do we try to get involved, and we say whoever is impacting drainage has to move the fence. So just to say that if this is a problem, we have to look at it. I got to see who went out there, who investigated it, and get their report back. Is it impacting drainage, or is it just, again, a lot of times we have neighbors fighting amongst each other and bring up issues. And this is a big problem.
Once again, we're complicating things. We're making things hard. This can really be easy. We already know that there's a lot out there, and obviously we cannot deal with it all at one time, and we can't dedicate all of our drainage personnel, nor do we want to dedicate all of our drainage personnel to taking care of this. But what we can do is act upon complaints.
Correct.
And deal with each complaint as it comes up. That's what we do most often anyway. And as I understand it, to put up a fence in this parish, you've got to have a permit.
No.
You don't have to have a permit? Maybe we ought to look at that then.
But then you get the enforcement of that. Who's going to enforce the permit? I mean, they can.
I guarantee you're not going to get an attorney to go out there and enforce it. That's the whole point. I mean, Mr. Rue, we got a complaint. The gentleman brought a picture. All we want you to do is just go take care of it.
Go take care of that fence.
No,
fence.
No, we're not arguing. We're not arguing the servitude bill. We're not arguing the servitude stuff. We don't. The parish president made the statement that he needs an attorney to take care of this. And that's the first time I heard that we need an attorney to take care of our drainage problems. I mean, that's another issue, and we need to discuss that another time. This gentleman has a problem. He's brought the pictures. Let's investigate it and see what we can do about it. If it ends up going illegal, then turn it over to O'Neill, Jeff Diaz, or Ricky Babbitt. We got three of them.
I acknowledge that. The fact of the matter is, if it impacts our drainage, we will do something about it.
That's all we ask.
And that's what I'm saying. If it impacts drainage, and maybe that might be the reason we haven't acted on it. We have to prove that.
Okay, we're still on new business.
Yes.
Kent still got something on new business?
Yes, I will make a motion now that we form a committee to investigate hiring a major drainage administrator.
I second it.
We got a motion by Mr. Shakespeare, second by Mrs. Fontenot to hire a drainage board administrator. Questions?
He said a major drainage administrator.
Well, major drainage.
Major
board.
drainage.
And to explain it further, we should have a committee, investigate, see what we need to do, if we need to do, and report back to this board and see what we can do. We're having some problems. We're having some problems communicating and getting our point across. And I think we need to look at that, somebody that's answerable to this board, because we are responsible.
Object.
One objection.
No, I think I object to that too.
Two objections. So moved. Now that we're forming this committee, who's wanting to serve on this committee?
I'll serve on it, Mr. Chairman.
We got Martin, Jarrett, Kent, and Mrs. Fontenot. All righty. Any objections? We moved on. Any more new business? Old business. I do have somebody in the audience that wants to speak on old business first. Jeff Oldendorf. Pass. Okay. Bill.
Okay, we have an item of old business. We had a report from CDM tonight about the Law Ridge Levee and also Henderson Bayou projects. This has gone through extensive debate and conversation over the last few months. It was actually approved back in February. The price of doing the job was discussed then and discussed several times thereafter. However, finance needs a motion actually saying the price or committing the parish to pay a certain not to exceed amount on each one of these projects before they can pay the invoices. So what we're asking tonight is for the council to add to the resolution of for CDM to do the work, to add that the Law Ridge levy shall not exceed $547,000, and that the Henderson Bayou project shall not exceed $220,000. And again,
So
this
moved,
is
Mr. Chairman. Got a motion by Mr. Barger. Second by Mr. Dempsey Lambert. Any questions? Any objections? So moved. Thank you. Mr. Gillesbeck.
Yeah, one item of old business. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to bring up, remind the board also about Mr. Schneller, who's in the audience tonight, Mr. John Schneller. He recently stated during a public comment period he requested that the Drainage Board establish a website. And I was trying to jot everything down that night. I believe he wanted a website established for the citizens' benefit so they can follow our spending. And I believe he wanted a listing of all spending on all projects completed, budgets on projected spending, future projects, equipment purchases, and I think really he wanted all revenues and expenses broke out where the citizen, that's not real familiar with all this terminology can follow the activities of the Drainage Board. Mr. Chairman, if I could I ask Mr. Schneller, did I cover everything? Maybe if there's something I left out, because I thought that was a very good point you made that night. Come up to the mic, please.
What I wanted was all the projects, proposed projects, the proposed cost, and then the work in progress from the Drainage Board, and completed projects, and any projects that have been discontinued or temporarily sidelined and the reason for it. And also the proposed costs and the actual as-built costs. So we could see, how much things escalate during the construction, because a lot of times the price of material changes, labor conditions change, and it's going to all cost us. And a lot of people who work in plants and everything don't have the opportunity to come down here to attend these meetings. They could go online and look at all of this and see what's going on within the parish, and it would give the council a lot more support if people understood what was going on. Because a lot of people would be very sympathetic to you, but they have no idea what problems you're facing, what's going on, and I think it would help get a lot more people involved.
I think it's an excellent point, and I don't know if that's something a committee would need to study, or if that's just something we can take on.
Put in administration.
Well, an Excel spreadsheet, for instance, just to show each project, like for instance, they're going to clean the ditch from here to there, and how much it's going to cost, how much labor is involved, and what kind of problems they run into. Are permits required for it?
Right.
You know?
I guess the next question, I see Ozzy he stepped in. I'm glad you did, Randy. Is this the kind of thing your department could establish and handle?
Yes.
Okay,
I
well, I'll
actually
make
took
a
notes
motion
on
we
this
do that
subject.
then.
When I heard the comments at the last meeting, I took notes, and I have a detailed list of everything he's asking for. The problem is going to be feeding the data that goes in behind the system, because I can build anything you want, but feeding it is where the problems arise.
And again, that's a communications issue that need to be addressed and be
Well,
solved.
you have to
but-
collect data before you can report on it.
Right.
So if you don't have a mechanism to feed the data into a system that you can report on it, you can't really build a system that'll report on it.
Okay, well, you want, I'll tell you what, why don't we table this and take a look at it, and we'll put it back on the agenda for maybe the next meeting, and we'll decide then. But I thought it was an excellent idea. Thank you.
Any more old business? How about number 17?
Move to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn by Mr. Barger, second by Mrs. Fontenot.